Chapter 832. After completing the ceremony, Han Xiaoran had a cordial conversation with clan master Chu Xiongqing. Then, he warned the other big clans and left hurriedly. Strange pop-up window queue he came, and went as fast as lightning. Everyone felt as if they were in a dream. Everyone in the Chu clan felt the same way. This was a great thing for the Chu clan. Even the sad atmosphere caused by the death of Chu Feilong's father was blown away to the greatest extent. Originally, the biggest source of income for the Chu clan in the flat mountain ridge was to compete with the other two clans for the Shao clan's trade route. As for the trade with the law enforcement hall, the Chu clan didn't even dare to think about it. That was a big cake, but the Chu clan didn't have the ability to eat it. Besides, the law enforcement officers were known to be difficult to talk to. Once there was a little mistake, even if the Chu clan lost the entire clan, it wouldn't be enough to make up for the anger of the law enforcement officers. But now, such a great thing was not only sent to the Chu clan, but also gave them preferential treatment. Not only did the Chu clan give them a source of income, but they also didn't need to bear any responsibility. How could there be such a good thing? The Liao clan and the Bao clan were completely shocked. In this case, even if they submitted to the Chu clan, it wouldn't be a bad thing, because it was obvious that the Chu clan had a lot of connections. It was good to lean on a big tree. Now that the Chu clan had just started to develop, there wasn't much that could be done. As long as everyone worked hard and developed, they wouldn't be mistreated, right? Their future was bright. The Chu clan immediately became busy. Master Chu Xiongqing took this opportunity to integrate the three big clans. The two commanders, Chu Feiling and Chu Fian, were immediately appointed. All the experts above the 5th grade of martial emperor from the three big clans were selected to form a group of bodyguards for the caravan. Each clan sent out 3 martial monarchs, while the Chu clan sent out 4 martial monarchs. A total of 10 martial monarchs were to hold the fort. The bodyguards were ready to go on the road and start the trade. The resistance from the other 2 big clans didn't happen. Instead, they cooperated. Everything went smoothly. The Liao clan became the second hall of the Chu clan, and the Bao clan became the third. The Chu clan naturally became the headquarters. In the afternoon, Qin Baoshan from the law enforcement auction hall sent a message. There was a mission. Chu Feiling and Chu Fian immediately set off on their journey to strengthen the Chu clan. The Chu clan's funeral was also hastily handled. Although the situation was still solemn, it wasn't considered a big occasion. This was because old Master Chu was still alive. Chu Feilong's father would at most die a premature death. It wouldn't be a major funeral. This was the custom of the Chong Tian. Everything was carried out in secret. Everything was simple and fast. Divine Dr. Chu looked and listened for a while, and finally realized that even if he wasn't here, it didn't seem to matter. Actually, it was like he had hunted a rabbit on the night of the 35th day of the Lunar New Year. With or without him, he would still celebrate the Lunar New Year. So Divine Dr. Chu wanted to slip away. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention, Chu Yang quietly started to move. After taking a few steps, he was grabbed by a pair of small hands. Take me back too. It was Chu Luer. The little girl was very tired, because Chu Luer insisted on following him, and she was so tired that she couldn't walk. Chu Yang could only carry this little girl on his back. How pitiful. Divine Dr. Chu sighed in his heart. Even if I'm in the law enforcement hall, I have a special carriage to sit in. But in my own home, I don't even have such treatment. Just as he left the Chu clan's gate, he saw a few black-clothed people standing in front of the gate. Behind him, there was a person who was looking at Chu Yang with unfriendly eyes. Chu Yang frowned. These 7 people were from the Shao clan's Flat Mountain Ridge branch. The first person to enter was the temporary host of the Shao clan. He was still inside just now. Why did he suddenly appear here? Looking at the situation, it seemed that the host was specially here to block him. You're Chu Yang? The master of the purple crystals Huichun Hall? The first person looked at Chu Yang with gloomy eyes and a hooked nose. He looked at Chu Yang with some disdain and asked lightly, "What do you want from the Shao clan?" Chu Yang, who was carrying Chu Luer, didn't put her down. He curled his lips and replied lightly, "You're rude to me, so how can I be respectful to you? Shao clan? So what? Wasn't Xiao Yulong crippled by me? Xiao Yulong fell into your trap? Not only did he die tragically, but he also compensated you with a large sum of purple crystals? The hooked nose asked heavily. That's the punishment of the law enforcement officers. It has nothing to do with me. Chu Yang pushed the blame away cleanly. The hooked nose snorted coldly. His face was covered with a layer of frost. You think that you can do whatever you want with the law enforcement officers backing you up? Chu Yang sneered and said, You're right. If all the law enforcement officers in the world are backing me up, then I really have nothing to fear. The hooked nose was so angry that he couldn't say anything. He snorted heavily and said, I'm Xiao Yuqing. Chu Yang said weakly, I've heard a lot about you. Xiao Yulong is my younger cousin. Xiao Yuqing looked at Chu Yang with his eagle-like eyes and said heavily, Not only did he die for no reason, but he also died too unjustly. Chu Yang sighed and said, All the people who die say this, Xiao Yuqing sneered. He lowered his voice and said, Grand Duke Chu, you'll say this very soon. You dare to blackmail my Xiao clan. You've got guts. Chu Yang said impatiently, Do you dare to kill me today? Xiao Yulong said angrily, Do you think I don't dare? Chu Yang sighed and walked over with Chu Luer on his back. He stretched out his hand and pushed Xiao Yuqing to one side. He walked past Xiao Yuqing and scolded, There's always such a group of idiots in the world. They obviously don't dare to, but they still say that they dare to. They're just flaunting their authority with their mouths. I've seen a lot of such idiots. If you want to kill me, just kill me. Cut the crap. To think that I thought that someone with some backbone had come. I didn't expect that I've wasted half a day's worth of saliva. Just now when the law enforcement master was here, I didn't see this guy being so awesome. When Sha Xinliang and the other law enforcement officers were here, this guy also didn't dare to fart. But now he's blocking me. He really knows how to bully others. Tomorrow, I'll catch a rat and scold him. Isn't he just bullying the weak and fearing the strong? Who doesn't know how to do that? As he scolded, he carried Chu Luer and walked away. Xiao Yuqing was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. He glared at Chu Yang as he walked away with Chu Luer on his back. After a long time, he finally started to pant. The other law enforcement officers also turned purple with anger. Chu Yang, when you land in my hands, I'll make you pay 1,000 times the price for what you said today. Xiao Yuqing panted. Don't think that you can sit back and relax, just because you've curried favor with the law enforcement officers. He thought that Chu Yang wouldn't be able to hear him, because he didn't have any cultivation. But he didn't expect that Chu Yang could hear every word clearly. In front of him, Chu Luer's crisp laughter could be heard. Brother Chu Yang, your words are really hooligan. But I like it. Hee hee. Xiao Yuqing's face became distorted. Chu Yang said faintly, Luer, you must remember that it's okay to scold such a cowardly person. You can even scold his own mother. Yes. Big brother, you're so awesome. I'll remember it. That person doesn't dare to say a word after being scolded by you. But it's better that big brother doesn't scold his mother. That's not good. Yes, Luer is a good girl. She's soft-hearted. I like Gaga. Yes, I won't scold his mother in the future. Yes, big brother is so nice. You can just scold his father. The voices of the brother and sister faded away. The 7 members of the Xiao clan stood there in a daze. Murderous aura was emanating from Chu Yang's body. His face was distorted and smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. Chu Yang didn't intend to speak nicely at all. He understood very well. Since the Xiao clan had specially sent Xiao Yulong's cousin here to preside over this matter, then the meaning of this was obvious. One could even guess it with their knees. Since this matter couldn't be avoided, or resolved no matter what, why should I swallow this insult? So, he took advantage of the fact that Xiao Yuqing was at the gate of the Chu clan. Moreover, Han Shaoran had just supported him. He was sure that Xiao Yuqing wouldn't dare to lay his hands on him. So he scolded him fiercely. Even if he still had to kill him in the end, this scolding still made him happy. The little girl's body was very light. But King of Hell Chu didn't use his cultivation, and only used his physical strength to carry her. In the end, it felt like he was carrying a small mountain. When Chu Yang returned to the Purple Crystal's Huichun Hall, he couldn't even lift his legs. When he finally arrived at the Purple Crystal's Huichun Hall, he saw that Huang Xiaoyou was angrily refusing to drink the medicine. Seeing that divine Dr. Chu wasn't around, Huang Xiaoyou finally started to make trouble. Chu Yang was very angry. He shouted, "Get lost if you don't want to drink it. Why do you have so many bad habits?" Huang Xiaoyou's whole body trembled as if he had heard thunder. His face turned pale, and he drank the medicine obediently. Now, when Huang Xiaoyou saw Chu Yang, it was as if he had seen the incarnation of a devil. He felt an indescribable fear. Then, he ran to the corner of the wall with a bitter face. He slanted his nose and mouth, and the corners of his mouth opened slightly. A line of bright saliva could be seen flowing down from the corner of his mouth. Drip, 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 drip. It was the bitter water that flowed out from the physiological reaction of his mouth. This kind of bitter water, no matter if it was too sour or too bitter, would flow out. Huang Xiaoyou couldn't vomit, but he realized that this could slightly reduce the uncomfortable feeling in his heart. So every time he drank the medicine, he would lean against the corner of the wall and drool by himself. Huang Xiaoyou had been drinking the medicine for 3 days. In these 3 days, Huang Xiaoyou felt that he had already spent 3 years. No, it was 30 years. Every day, Huang Xiaoyou would feel full after drinking a bowl of yellowish medicinal soup. Even if he wasn't full, he would feel full from the disgust. It's like shit. Is this still a day? On the 4th day, the people from the Huang clan came back. Chu Yang still underestimated how much the Huang clan valued this only son. Not only did they bring back all the medicines that Chu Yang needed for the so-called second course of treatment, but they also brought back extremely detailed information. Not only that, the clan master of the Huang clan also came personally. He even brought along Huang Xiaoyou's mother, his 4 concubines, and Huang Xiaoyou's 2 wives, and a large number of experts to protect them. Such a huge lineup made divine Dr. Chu dumbfounded. To be continued. Chapter 833. When the few husbands saw Huang Xiaoyou, they immediately called him darling. They surrounded him and asked him questions. Huang Xiaoyou was at the most uncomfortable moment in his life. When he saw his wife, he immediately burst into tears and rolled on the ground, as if he had suffered some grievances. He cried and complained, causing the other husbands to tear up. Some of them couldn't help but look at Chu Yang with an unfriendly look in their eyes. In fact, some of them were gnashing their teeth. Chu Yang finally understood how this playboy came about. It seems that Huang Xiaoyou is treated like a treasure at home. Who dares to reprimand him? Huang Gong's 2 wives stood timidly at one side. They seemed to be a little embarrassed, and their faces were red. Divine Dr. Chu looked over and saw that Huang Xiaoyou's 2 wives were beautiful. Although they weren't exceedingly beautiful, they had graceful figures and were very elegant. Although they were dressed as young women, they were obviously still virgins from their figures and faces. There was a little bitterness in their eyes. When Huang Gong saw his wives, he immediately felt guilty. He didn't even cry anymore. He rubbed his hands, smiled embarrassedly, and occasionally sighed secretly. Helpless. Divine Dr. Chu suddenly had a deep realization. The biggest helplessness in life wasn't that he couldn't earn money or gather strength. It was that he couldn't do anything despite having 2 beautiful wives by his side. Chu Yang really sympathized with Huang Xiaoyou at this moment. Under such circumstances, he actually persisted for so long and didn't commit suicide. Huang Gong's endurance was also one of the best in the world. How many worries could one have in life? He was just like Huang Xiaoyou, who had beautiful wives. If Huang Gong went to the brothel, he would be even more worried. This time, Clan Master Huang even specially brought a pharmaceutical master to study Huang Xiaoyou's condition with divine Dr. Chu. The pharmaceutical master's surname was also Huang, and his name was Huang Yaoshi. Huang Yaoshi was studying the medicinal decoction made by divine Dr. Chu for a long time. Finally, he whispered to Clan Master Huang, "This medicinal decoction is the first one I've seen in my life, and it has a mysterious power. It seems that it's very beneficial to men. It seems that divine Dr. Chu is helping Huang Gong to strengthen his foundation." Clan Master Huang instantly beamed with joy and felt relieved. Clan Master Huang was thin like a twin. When he saw Chu Yang, he sighed, cupped his hands and laughed heartily. "Divine Dr. Chu. Ha ha. Thank you for taking care of me. I've troubled you during this period. Chu Yang smiled and said, Clan Master Huang is too polite. He thought, this Clan Master Huang is much smaller than my son. My name is Huang Shang. Hehe. I am the current head of the Huang family. The head of the Huang family revealed his name. Divine Dr. Chu's body shook, and he almost kowtowed. Your Majesty? Huang, 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 Noble Shang. Huang family head had seen this kind of expression many times. He didn't know how many people had misunderstood this name, so he didn't care at all. He said, it's not the emperor who entered the imperial court. Huang, Huang, clan master, Huang's clan master Huang, Huang clan. Divine Dr. Chu, you don't have to be so polite. Besides worrying about my son, I also want to ask you a question. Huang Shang squeezed out a smile on his thin face and said in a low voice, Divine Dr. Chu, how confident are you in curing my son's illness? Without waiting for Chu Yang to answer, Huang Shang added, to restore him to a normal man, that kind of cough, that kind of power? Chu Yang pondered and said, but how confident is the Huang clan to find those few key medicines? Huang Shang stroked his beard and said, I've inquired about those few medicines through the law enforcement hall, and asked the 5 big clans one after another. Finally, I've got their whereabouts. Our Huang clan has the poisonous stinging iron cucumber. As for the absolute vine, we have 3 stalks in the Medicine Valley. Lifeless death water is stored in the Ling clan. And the life pangolin is in the Zhuge clan. As long as Divine Dr. Chu says that you're confident, I'll immediately send 200,000 purple crystals to the Medicine Valley, the Zhuge clan and the Ling clan. I'll buy the medicines back at all costs. Chu Yang's heart shook. He thought, damn it, there's no comparison between the two. I'm so worried about the 30,000 purple crystals that I don't even know how to spend them. But this clan master Huang actually offered 200,000 purple crystals. He's indeed extremely rich. But he's also extremely concerned about his son. Chu Yang smiled and said, as long as Clan Master Huang can get these few medicines, I can guarantee that once you get the medicines today, you'll be able to return to normal tomorrow. Not only that, but your ability will even surpass Changjin. Good. Huang Shang clapped his hands and his face flushed red. He said, are you serious? I'm not lying. Chu Yang smiled slightly. If I've lied to Clan Master Huang, then our Chu clan doesn't seem to be a match for the Huang clan. Chu Yang made a joke. Huang Shang laughed and said, the Chu clan now is also gradually rising. Even I admire the Chu clan from the bottom of my heart for being so resourceful. Clan Master Huang, you're too kind. Chu Yang smiled reservedly. Huang Shang put down one of his worries and walked out to whisper to a few of his men. Instantly, the few men's faces were full of joy. Then Huang Shang issued a series of orders. At all costs, with the fastest speed, with the shortest distance, with, no matter what, you must get the medicines. Immediately, a large number of attendants rushed out and rode away. After everything was arranged properly, Huang Shang came in with a face full of joy. Divine Dr. Chu, this poison is really caused by the art of severing grandchildren, right? Chu Yang was surprised and displeased. Do you think that I've seen wrongly? Huang Shang laughed and rubbed his hands. Then, he thought of something and his face turned gloomy. He said, to be honest, Divine Dr. Chu, these few days, after receiving the news, I've immediately investigated the life of the art of severing descendants, Sa Wufei. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and pretended that he didn't take it to heart. He said, oh? In fact, he had pricked up his ears and paid full attention to it. Back then, Sa Wufei ran amok in Chongtian and did all kinds of evil deeds. No one knew how many descendants he had killed. Finally, he aroused public anger. 2 big clans sent their men to cooperate with the blood payers of the world to encircle and annihilate him. Huang Shang said, which 2 clans? Chu Yang asked casually. One of them is the #1 dominant clan in Chongtian, the Yi clan. At that time, Yi Di, the #1 expert of the younger generation of the Yi clan, was dispatched. He was also the ancestor of the Yi clan, a supreme martial artist. Now no one knows if he's still in the world. When Huang Shang said the name Yi Di, his tone was full of respect. Yi Di, Chu Yang muttered to himself, and remembered this name. And the other clan is the Xiao clan. Xiao Se, the number one expert of the younger generation of the Xiao clan, was dispatched as well. And when Xiao Se became a martial saint later on, he mysteriously disappeared. That was 7,100 years ago, Huang Shang said slowly. And as far as I know, Sa Wufei was first severely injured by Yi Di and escaped with his injuries. Then he was killed by Xiao Se. Huang Shang's voice was heavy. Chu Yang pondered and said, in other words, the one who killed Sa Wufei was Xiao Se. And the first one to get Sa Wufei's corpse was also Xiao Se. Exactly. Huang Shang nodded heavily. Chu Yang was silent. He knew that there were many things that Huang Shang needed to deduce by himself. If he said it, it would not have that effect. If that's the case, then Xiao Se got Sa Wufei's art of severing descendants. Huang Shang said seriously. In these 7,000 years, the Xiao clan must have had many people practicing it. Ever since the rise of our Huang clan, the Xiao clan didn't pay much attention to us at first. That was until our Huang clan produced a brilliant Huang Feng. Huang Feng's ancestor was a peerless genius, and he unintentionally saved an important item of the Yi clan. They became sworn brothers and helped each other out. So things got out of hand. The Huang clan slowly grew. From a small clan, it developed into a huge clan in 300 years. Later on, the Huang clan's descendants also lived up to expectations. Generation after generation, the clan became more and more prosperous. Until 400 years ago, the Huang clan suddenly began to decline. Once the important members of the clan left, there would be no news about them. They would disappear without a trace. Moreover, the number of younger brothers in the clan was also very small. Later on, it was found that it was a small clan that poisoned them. Since then it was peaceful for a few years. In the recent 200 years, things got worse. Several members of the Huang clan successively contracted this unspeakable disease, resulting in no descendants. There were also some who were mysteriously killed. In my generation it was even worse. Of my 4 sons, 3 died in accidents one after another. The last one actually also. Huang Shang sighed, his eyes filled with intense hatred. I suspected the Xiao clan more than once, but I never had any evidence. Today I finally understood. The origin of everything is in the hands of this art of severing descendants. The Xiao clan's schemes are truly deep and vicious. As long as the Huang clan's bloodline is cut off, the Huang clan will collapse without a fight. Moreover, such a slow decline won't attract any attention. It's more beneficial for them to gather the strength of the Huang clan after its decline. Huang Shang gritted his teeth. The Xiao clan wants to cut off our Huang clan's bloodline. So Clan Master Huang has already confirmed it, Chu Yang said lightly. Yes. Since that's the case, Clan Master Huang's visit today has brought me a lot of trouble. Chu Yang sighed. Trouble is destined, Huang Shang sighed. When Divine Dr. Chu took over Xiaolu, trouble was destined. Chu Yang let out an "oh" sound. Then he looked at him meaningfully and said, this sentence is not bad. Huang Shang's eyebrows were filled with ruthlessness. He said, since the Xiao clan can lay their hands on our Huang clan without any reason, why can't our Huang clan lay our hands on them? To be continued. Chapter 834. Chu Yang laughed. Clan Master Huang. Whether it's the Xiao clan or you who's attacking the Xiao clan, this is your Huang clan's matter. Chu Yang's laughter was a little cold. Web, yes, I've said too much. Huang Shang suddenly realized. He smiled and said, but I still have something to trouble Divine Dr. Chu. Once the battle starts, there will be casualties. By then, I'll need Divine Dr. Chu's help. Chu Yang said lightly, when I practice medicine, I only recognize purple crystals, not people. As long as your Huang clan can pay enough purple crystals, I'll be able to bring you back to life. But if you don't have purple crystals, I can't help. He rolled his eyes and said, this is my principle. Clan Master Huang, please fulfill my request. It has nothing to do with friendship or hatred. Just now, Chu Yang suddenly felt suffocated. The meaning of this Clan Master Huang was very obvious, and he didn't even try to hide it. I've come here with great fanfare, and the Xiao clan must know. It's impossible for you to keep a secret and get away from this matter. So, you're already in my muddy water. So it means that you're already on my boat. So if our Huang clan has any requests, such as treating injuries, you can't just stand by and watch. Once our Huang clan is destroyed, you won't have a good ending. That was why he said, trouble is destined. But it was this sentence that expressed his current thoughts. How could King of Hell Chu feel good about this? Damn it, I've always been scheming against others, but someone's scheming against me. Besides, what did he mean by trouble is destined? What kind of logic is this? I've always been leisurely here to treat illnesses and earn purple crystals. Where did trouble come from? If your son didn't come, why would I have trouble? Now, not only did you send trouble to me, but you even magnified it. Not only magnified it, but you even want to make use of me? Therefore, King of Hell Chu didn't like this Huang clan's lord in his heart once he realized this. Huang Shang said a little embarrassedly, Of course. Divine Dr. Chu's loss must be compensated. He knew that his words had touched the sensitive nerves of this divine doctor. He couldn't hide his thoughts from him, so he was a little embarrassed. Marshal Yin New Chapter Chu Yang said, Since that's the case, Clan Master Huang has taken out 200,000 purple crystals at once for your son's sake. Let's make up for the loss of my little shop first. Let's just make up for 1 month's worth. If the Huang family still hasn't sent the spiritual herbs a month later, we'll count it again. Huang Shang said straightforwardly. Of course, but how many are there? Chu Yang stretched out 2 fingers. 2,000 purple crystals? Although Huang Shang felt that this number was rather large, he still smiled and said, No problem. That won't be a problem. No, it's 20,000. Purple crystals. Chu Yang looked at him coldly. 20,000? The head of the Huang family shouted. This is only a loss. You haven't said that it's the medical expenses. Chu Yang said indifferently. I refuse to bargain. If Patriarch Huang thinks it's too expensive, you can take your son and leave. The medicine you took before is a gift from me. You're too kind, Divine Dr. Chu. Although Huang Shang was the clan master of a big clan, he really didn't dare to be disrespectful to Chu Yang. He had just arrived here when he heard that the law enforcement master of the southeast region, Han Xiaoran, had personally gone to the Chu clan to show his support. How could Huang Shang not have any scruples? Now that the Xiao clan's matter was urgent, it wasn't good to complicate matters. His son and the inheritance of a big clan were still in Chu Yang's hands. He also couldn't offend Chu Yang, of course. If it weren't for the first 2 conditions, Clan Master Huang would have already brought Divine Dr. Chu back. Would Chu Yang even have the chance to bargain with him? Isn't it just 20,000 purple crystals? And it's Divine Dr. Chu's loss because of our Huang clan. It's only right that we compensate you. Huang Shang squinted his eyes and smiled. Now that the compensation is settled, let's talk about the medical expenses. Chu Yang smiled. His smile was pure. But Huang Shang was very careful. Divine Dr. Chu, you can say it. Until your son recovers, it'll probably cost 20,000 purple crystals. Chu Yang said generously. The specific amount should be 23,000 purple crystals. But I don't want the 3,000 purple crystals. Since we're so familiar with each other, I'm also embarrassed to ask for more. He chuckled and said, But I'm also embarrassed to ask for less. Patriarch Huang is willing to take out 200,000 purple crystals, just for 3 stalks of poison, without a frown. If I ask for less, it would be an insult to Patriarch Huang. Now that we're so familiar with each other, how can I insult you? Divine Dr. Chu smiled kindly. I feel that such a price is neither too much nor too little. Clan Master Huang, You. What's wrong? Huang Shang lowered his head and coughed for a while. After a long time he raised his head and said, Cough, cough, cough. Yes. Neither too much nor too little. 20,000 purple crystals. Just right, cough, cough, haha, just right. He was extremely depressed. You might as well insult me. Please come and insult me. Well, it's great that Clan Master Huang doesn't have any objections. Chu Yang smiled. Huang Shang was depressed. Who said that I don't have any objections? I just didn't say. Chu Yang said sincerely. Clan Master Huang. Although we're familiar with each other, I rely on this to make a living. It's better to make some things clear in advance, lest there's a dispute later on. If that happens, I'll be very embarrassed. Huang Shang instinctively felt that something was wrong. He stammered, "What is it?" Chu Yang smiled embarrassedly, rubbed his hands and said shyly, "It's when your son recovers completely. What price does Clan Master Huang intend to use to thank me?" Huang Shang was surprised. Even a sly old fox like Huang Shang also felt a little uncomfortable when this sentence was said so bluntly. Of course, in today's eyes, this matter is very normal. But at that time, Chu Yang still felt a little embarrassed to cover up this matter. At that time, even if you went to the brothel, you still had to listen to music first, Chu Yang said excitedly. You see, once Duke Huang's injuries are healed, the Huang clan's grandchildren will be multiplied immediately. Ha ha ha. Besides, after Duke Huang has undergone my divine treatment, his ability will definitely surpass that of ordinary people by many times. Clan Master Huang, the day when you can enjoy your grandchildren to the fullest is just around the corner. This is something that's worth looking forward to and celebrating. Then for a great contributor like me, I think Clan Master Huang won't be stingy, right? Divine Dr. Chu asked expectantly. Huang Shang only felt a little bitter in his mouth, as if the family business that his ancestors had accumulated for generations was about to grow wings and fly away at this moment. He gritted his teeth, frowned, stamped his feet and said, "At that time, I'll add another 20,000 purple crystals for Divine Dr. Chu." 20,000? Chu Yang dragged his voice with dissatisfaction. 20,000? Ha 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 ha. 25,000. Huang Shang said painfully. Clan Master Huang still doesn't pay much attention to the bloodline inheritance. Chu Yang sighed. There are 3 ways to be unfilial, and having no descendants is the worst. 30,000. Veins on Huang Shang's forehead bulged. Deal. Divine Dr. Chu snapped his fingers and smiled like a flower. Clan Master Huang, please take a seat. I'll let them serve tea. Huang Shang was like a deflated ball. He sat on the chair and wrinkled his face. This Divine Dr. Chu is a greedy ghost. He wants money as if he's peeling off someone's skin. Oh yes. Divine Dr. Chu turned back again and asked for confirmation. The 30,000 that Clan Master Huang said is purple crystals, right? Huang Shang roared angrily. Do you think I'll give you silver? That's good, that's good. Chu Yang breathed a sigh of relief. Huang Shang rolled his eyelids, exhaled and closed his eyes. He didn't even want to look at this divine doctor now. Even if you have something, you shouldn't be sick. Even if you don't have something, you shouldn't be poor. Clan Master Huang now had a deeper understanding of this sentence. If you're sick, all your family's assets will be at the disposal of the doctors. With such a black-hearted mental cultivation method, how many families' assets can't be emptied out? Huang Shang secretly made up his mind. When dealing with the Shao clan, I'll snatch as much as I can. I'll try my best to recoup my losses first. But he didn't know that the reason why he paid such a high price was because he had offended Chu Yang. He shouldn't have schemed so much against Chu Yang. What Chu Yang hated the most was being schemed against and used by others. Huang Shang had touched his reverse scale. How could he not be ruthlessly slaughtered by him with his lion's mouth wide open? Of course, if Huang Shang knew the whole story of this matter, and knew that he had taken out 70,000 purple crystals for something that could be settled with 10,000 purple crystals, he would probably have the heart to pull out his own tongue. That night, Huang Shang brought his men to stay at the inn nearby. 2 martial saints were left to protect Huang Xiaoyou. Huang Xiaoyou was tormented by Divine Dr. Chu's medicine, and he fell asleep very early. In the middle of the night, the stars were dim. In Chu Yang's room, Chu Yang was dressed in black and sat in front of the bed. He took out a grass figurine that was about the size of a human from the tribulation space and put it under the quilt. After covering the quilt, he took out a strange object with holes in it. One end was thick while the other was thin. He gently placed it under the window and held his breath. A gentle breeze blew in from the window. Chu Yang adjusted the direction of the strange object. When he showed a satisfied smile on his face, there was suddenly a light breathing sound in the room. It was like the most natural breathing sound of a person sleeping soundly, but Chu Yang had already held his breath. Where did this breathing sound come from? It turned out to be the strange object that Chu Yang placed by the window. This object was dug out from the memory of the first tribulation sword master, and Chu Yang made it with great care. It was an excellent item to deceive others. It was called someone in the room. This object could adjust the best effect of sleeping and breathing according to the direction of the wind, and let others know that someone was sleeping soundly in the room. It seemed inconspicuous, but in the martial world, this object was very useful. The most important thing was that it didn't cost much to make this object. As long as one knew the method, one could make it with any stone. Chu Yang was especially interested in it, so he made this object at the first moment, and it came in handy now. Everything was arranged properly. Chu Yang's divine sense sank into his consciousness space and asked, "Sword Spirit, are you ready?" 100 votes. Chapter 835. The Sword Spirit smiled gently, and his smile was full of killing intent. He said, "Do we really want to kill them?" Chu Yang smiled coldly. "Not only do we want to kill them, we want to kill them to our heart's content." The Sword Spirit said, "Since that's the case, then let's have a great massacre." Chu Yang chuckled. Net 7 by 24 hours of nonstop novel updates. Sword Spirit, this time, you must remember that our mission is like this, like this. The Sword Spirit nodded deeply. "Don't worry. It's absolutely foolproof." A black shadow floated out of the opened window like a black cloud. It spun with the wind and soared into the sky. It flashed in the air and disappeared without a trace. In the side room, the two martial saints of the Huang clan were meditating. One of them suddenly opened his eyes and frowned, saying, "There's movement." The next moment, the two of them had already reached the courtyard silently. With a flash of their figures, one of them had already flown up to the roof like a gust of wind. Looking into the distance, they saw that the surroundings were silent. There were only the stars and the bright moon in the sky. "There's no one." The person on the roof said softly. "Strange." The person below frowned. Then, the two of them stopped talking at the same time and listened to the movements in each room. In Chu Luer's room, Chu Luer's soft breathing could be heard. Even though this little girl was asleep, her breathing was still soft and weak. In Huang Xiaoyou's room, Huang Gongzheng was sleeping with his limbs spread out. His snoring sounds could be heard, and he would occasionally whistle and grind his teeth. In Chu Yang's room, a soft breathing sound could be heard continuously, indicating that the owner of this sound was asleep, and he was sleeping peacefully. There's really nothing unusual. The two saint-level experts looked at each other before they entered the room. After a while, the two of them flew out from two different directions at the same time. They circled around the purple crystals Huichun Hall once before they climbed up and looked around. They still didn't see anything unusual. Net 7 by 24 hours of nonstop novel updates. Their vigilance and experience in the martial world were undoubtedly revealed in these two operations. But they still didn't discover anything. They couldn't help but be amazed. It's really strange. There's obviously that bleak and sharp aura fluctuation of the vicissitudes of life. Why is there nothing unusual? One of them frowned in bewilderment. That's true. You're not the only one who felt that aura. Even I felt it. If an expert came, then this person's cultivation is definitely above ours. It's just that invincible loneliness that disturbed us. Could it be that he's just passing by? The other person was also puzzled. That can't be. How could such an expert pass by so late at night? The saint-level expert who spoke earlier muttered in a low voice. It's really strange that I've encountered such an inexplicable thing on my first night here. That divine Dr. Chu has been staying here every day, but he's used to it. That guy. I reckon he won't wake up even if there's a thunderstorm on a sunny day. Look at how he's sleeping so soundly. I wonder what kind of good dreams he's having. The two of them shook their heads as they walked into the room. That night, the two of them were even more vigilant, not daring to close their eyes. However, he didn't find anything. What they didn't know was that the abnormal aura that had aroused their vigilance was already dozens of kilometers away. Xiao family branch. Ever since Xiao Yuqing came back from the Chu clan, he looked like a toad who was about to explode from anger. His mouth and eyes were crooked. He had just taken up the position and was thinking of ways to establish his authority in the flat mountain ridge. In the end, not only did he fail to establish his authority, he was also slapped in the face. Until now, Xiao Yuqing's face was still burning from Chu Yang's abuse. He had lost all his face in front of his subordinates. However, the situation at that time was special, and he really couldn't flare up or take action. He had to suffer in silence. Xiao Yulong kicked down the doors of more than 10 houses on the way. After he came back, he drank a few cups of wine to drown his sorrows, and his chest felt even more stifled. Marshal Yin Yang at the side. The faces of the 8 emperor-level experts were all ugly. Among these 8 people, 4 were brought by Xiao Yuqing, and the other 4 were the remaining 4 people after Xiao Yulong's incident. This is intolerable. Xiao Yuqing drank another cup of wine, picked up a piece of fragrant fox's buttocks, and bit on it fiercely. Ordinary people like to eat meat from other places, but Xiao Yuqing had a weird fetish. No matter if it was pork, chicken, or mutton, he liked to eat buttocks. Fragrant fox was a delicacy, but the buttocks of fragrant fox were also more disgusting. As everyone knew, all foxes had a stink gland in their bodies. Yes, the stink gland of fragrant fox was in their buttocks. Naturally, the meat from other places was delicious, but the buttocks meat, not to mention having a strange smell. Even if there wasn't, it would really make people suspicious. But Xiao Yuqing still liked to eat buttocks, and he chewed loudly. The 8 subordinates could only accompany him to eat. In fact, they just watched him eat. "You're just a kid. How dare you be so arrogant? How dare you disregard me, Xiao Yuqing?" Xiao Yuqing's face was ferocious, and he bit on the buttocks of fragrant fox with big mouthfuls. He didn't forget to scold. "I, Xiao Yuqing, will definitely take revenge for this humiliation." He ate the buttocks in big mouthfuls. This little bastard, just because he has the support of the law enforcement officers, he actually dares to be so lawless. He ate the buttocks in big mouthfuls. "I will definitely take revenge for Xiao Yulong. Xiao Yulong can't die in vain." He ate the buttocks in big mouthfuls. Little bastard. Ah! Xiao Yuqing was obviously a little crazy, and he tore the buttocks of fragrant fox crazily and chewed with big mouthfuls. His eyes were ferocious. The 8 martial emperors sat there like wooden blocks. The 8 of them had never seen Xiao Yuqing in a rage before, and they didn't expect that Xiao Yulong would vent his anger in such a way. Looking at the table full of pig buttocks, chicken buttocks, duck buttocks, sheep buttocks, cow buttocks, fragrant fox buttocks, the 8 of them felt that their throats were twitching. At the beginning, they could still scold along with Xiao Yuqing, but now, their anger had been completely dispersed by this clan leader Zhao's crazy act of eating the buttocks. Everyone's throats seemed to be swallowing something. "Don't you think this is infuriating?" Xiao Yuqing raised his head and drank a cup of wine. He threw away the fragrant fox buttocks in his hand, grabbed a big piece of duck buttocks and bit into it. Just at this moment, a sharp scream suddenly resounded through the sky. Along with this scream, the entire Xiao clan's branch hall was in chaos. Xiao Yuqing was still in a daze, but the 8 martial experts had already rushed out of the hall. At this moment, the 8 of them even had the feeling of finally being free. Damn it, it's better to go out and fight with the enemy than to stay here and watch this guy eat buttocks crazily. I really don't understand. What's so good about this buttocks? I don't know if this guy eats human buttocks or not. He's a branch of the Xiao clan, but he actually has such a weird fetish. I've heard of people who lack maternal love and like women's breasts, but I've never heard of people who lack love for buttocks since childhood. It's really disgusting. Xiao Yulong shouted and threw down the duck buttocks. He strode out of the hall and shouted, "Why are you shouting in the middle of the night?" But the next moment he shut his mouth. He saw a ghostly black shadow coming in from the direction of the gate. His movements were neither fast nor slow, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. The sword in his hand was shining brilliantly. Even when this black-robed man saw the Xiao clan's martial artists coming out with all their might, he would even wait for a while. Behind him, there were corpses lying in a mess. There were already 40 to 50 corpses. Everyone was either stabbed in the throat or the chest. Fresh blood flowed silently on the ground in the dark night, and gathered into a pool of blood at the gate. This black-robed man walked slowly towards the pool of blood and corpses. Hundreds of Xiao clan's martial artists rushed up like a tide and attacked ferociously. But they actually couldn't stop this man's footsteps. He actually stopped and waited for someone to come up and die. Who are you? Xiao Yuqing shouted hoarsely. The black-robed masked man actually raised his head calmly and looked at Xiao Yuqing, who was on the steps with a deep look. This look seemed to have cut through time and space and connected with the ancient times. On the steps, everyone, including Xiao Yuqing, felt a bleak, cold and lonely aura, which seemed to have hit their hearts hard. Everyone felt a sense of loneliness that made them want to cry at the same time. At this moment, this peculiar mental stirring made him forget his fear and rage. They were actually stunned for a while, and their spirits seemed to have stopped at this moment, but also seemed to have entered a wonderful state. Then they heard a series of screams again. Everyone was shocked at the same time. What kind of magical skill is this? What kind of cultivation is this? It was a mess. The black-robed man laughed loudly and said lightly, "It's time to have a good talk with you." Suddenly, his black robe rose gradually, and a dense sword light spread out like the halo of the bright moon in the sky. Slowly, it drew out a big circle with a radius of 500 feet. The Shao clan's martial artists who were attacking from all directions froze at the same time. They didn't move at all. The black-robed man smiled and walked towards the steps with ease. After he took 10 steps, there was a bang behind him, and the remaining 100 martial artists fell to the ground at the same time. The power of his sword actually killed more than 100 martial artists at the same time. Everyone was in the same position. Everyone's lower body was still upright, but their upper body flew out and fell neatly in front of their own feet. Even the direction in which the blood was splattered was actually the same. Even if they had rehearsed it thousands of times, they would definitely not be able to do it so neatly. The black-robed man walked for another 10 steps, and suddenly sighed. "Why are you still standing when you're all dead?" As his voice sounded, there was a bang behind him, and the lower bodies of the 100 martial artists fell down at the same time, in a pool of blood. The black-robed man raised his head and looked at the person on the steps. He smiled lightly and said, "Don't go, don't be anxious, I'll be there soon." 200 votes and more. Chapter 836. Who exactly are you? What deep hatred does our Shao clan have with you? How dare you be so vicious? Xiao Yuqing's teeth chattered as he spoke. Being in the pugilistic world, everyone had seen a lot of battles and killings. Killing people while gnashing their teeth wasn't scary at all, but it was rare to see someone like this man in black, whose eyes were calm from beginning to end, and whose voice was as gentle as usual, as if he was attending a banquet instead of a massacre. Not only Xiao Yuqing was scared, everyone was scared. This man's cold-bloodedness wasn't cruelty. Instead, it had a kind of strange freedom, as if he had seen through life and seen through the essence of life. So vicious. This man in black seemed to smile. Strangely, he was wearing a mask, but everyone clearly felt that he was smiling at this moment. Is it vicious? The man in black asked softly. As he spoke, he moved forward. His sleeves fluttered and he said, "Compared to your Shao clan's way of making people die without descendants, my method is really too gentle." As he spoke, he had already walked to within 100 feet. Suddenly he frowned and said softly, "You're standing too high. I'm not used to looking up and talking like this." Then, he stretched out his right hand and pressed down gently. He glanced outwards. With a boom, Xiao Yuqing and the others suddenly realized that they were already standing on flat ground. The 18 high steps actually disappeared into thin air. On one side, at a distance of 200 feet, there were 18 steps standing alone. There wasn't any hall or house behind the steps. This man in black actually moved all the steps away with one palm from the feet of the people who were standing on the steps. And these people were all emperor-level experts, but they actually felt like they were in a dream. This kind of skill was extremely close to a legend. It's much more comfortable to talk now. At least I don't have to look up. That's too tiring. The black-masked man said faintly. What do you think? Xiao Yuqing's breathing became hurried. Senior, there must be some misunderstanding. Yes, there's definitely no misunderstanding. The masked man in black was none other than the sword spirit. He chuckled and said, "How could there be a misunderstanding about the matter of not having any descendants?" Xiao Yuqing said anxiously, "Senior, you keep talking about the matter of not having any descendants, but I've never heard of it. Our Shao clan, as one of the ruling aristocratic families in the heavens, would definitely not do such a cruel thing. The sword spirit laughed strangely. You are not qualified to know. He paused for a moment and said bleakly, you only need to know that this old man has killed people today with great satisfaction. Killing to the satisfaction of everyone. Kill to take revenge. That's enough. A faint murderous look appeared in his eyes as he said, Shao clan, when you reach the netherworld, help me pass a message to Shao Se. Tell him that what he did to others in the past, what his grandson did to others today, I will do to his Shao clan. Xiao Yuqing was shocked and said, Senior you. The sword spirit's body floated up, and he stretched out his palm. With a clang, a long sword appeared in his hand out of thin air. It was as if the long sword was hidden in his body, and with a thought, the long sword would come out from his palm. Then, he took a stride and slid out a distance of 100 feet in the air. He said lightly, this is the first hall of the Shao clan that will be buried. There will be a second one, a third one. The long sword suddenly turned into a scorching sun in the air. It fell down with a loud bang, but this unparalleled momentum had already taken away the minds of the few people, and their souls were scattered. They were scared out of their wits. They shouted at the same time and attacked. But Xiao Yuqing threw out his long sword at the moment when the 8 martial emperors attacked at the same time. His body swayed, and he flew backwards. The sword spirit snorted coldly. Although I want you to stay alive to report the news, you shouldn't be so impatient. He turned his left palm, and his palm spat out. Net. At the same time, the long sword in his hand came into contact with the weapons of the 8 martial emperors. With a soft clang, a sword broke. The sword spirit's long sword continued to cut into the neck of the martial emperor without any pause. With a puff, a head flew up. The sword spirit's long sword had already broken the second person's saber and cut into the second person's neck. Then came the third sword, the third person. The fifth person. A simple wave of the sword was enough to destroy everything in its path. Any ingenious moves were like snowflakes under the scorching sun, melting without a trace in front of this sword. The 8th person's sword was broken into 2 pieces, and his body was broken in half. At the same time, Xiao Yuqing, who had already run for more than 300 feet, felt as if he was suddenly hit by a huge hammer. His body, which was running at high speed, suddenly became sluggish. He fell to the ground without a sound. The sword spirit floated up and landed beside him. All the bones in Xiao Yuqing's body had been shattered by his palm. For the rest of his life, he would never be able to use his own power to do anything, including eating, drinking, and defecating. There was only one purpose left for him: to say a few words. Don't forget to tell your Shao clan that you will suffer retribution for not having any descendants. The sword spirit said lightly. Then, the black-robed figure floated up and flashed on the roof. With a shake of his hands, a few sparks flew out. The entire Shao clan branch was set ablaze. In the fire, the black-robed figure flashed and disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a corpse, a pool of blood, and a half-dead Xiao Yuqing. It seemed that the sword spirit had forgotten that Xiao Yuqing couldn't move at all. This fire would roast Xiao Yuqing alive. Then, he would lose the purpose of his message. Soon after the sword spirit's black-robed silhouette disappeared, a few more silhouettes rushed over as if they were flying. These people's movements were extremely fast this time. Their cultivations were much higher. Who did such a vicious thing? The first person had thin eyes, a pair of eyebrows that were like short swords, and a tall figure. His whole person was like a sharp sword hidden in its sheath. Although he didn't show his ability, he was extremely dangerous. Even with a sweep of his eyes, there seemed to be sword light shooting out. This was the second stage of a sword cultivator's cultivation, after reaching the level of a sword emperor. The first stage of a sword cultivator was commonly known as the martial emperor sword emperor. At this time, his whole body was like a sword, and he couldn't hide his ability at all. Just like a treasure sword that had just come out of the furnace, he couldn't wait to show his peerlessness to the whole world. Domineering and sharp, he would kill anyone who blocked him. He would respect himself as a king, but at the second stage his ability would be restrained. Although he would still be aggressive, he would be able to hide his aura. This was the Sword Monarch, commonly known as the Sword Monarch. When an emperor had the aura of a monarch, he would be a monarch that was taking shape. At this moment, he would no longer act arbitrarily. Instead, he would have concerns and thoughts. In other words, he had matured a little. The third stage was the Sword Monarch. At that time, he would be a real monarch, majestic and lofty. At the fourth stage, his ability would be restrained again. He would cultivate step by step, until he was no different from an ordinary person. That was the highest realm of swordsmanship, returning to one's natural state. At that time, even heaven and earth would be a sharp sword. And this black-clothed man who had rushed over was a 100% sword emperor. There's no one alive. The two men he brought along quickly circled around the corpses, and came to this conclusion. This person raised his sword-like eyebrows and shot out like a sword. He quickly turned around, and his eyes flashed with sword light. What a powerful sword, the other two men asked. Seventh Master. This man cultivates swordsmanship? That's right. Cultivates swordsmanship. And although his cultivation isn't as pure as mine, his power is far above mine. This man was the sword genius of the Shao clan, Seventh Master Shao. There was a huge change in the flat mountain ridge. Even Shao Yulong was killed. How could the Shao clan not send people over? With the Shao clan's cautiousness, how could they let Xiao Yuqing take charge of the overall situation? He was just a puppet on the surface. But Seventh Master Shao was one step too late. The 17 people at the door were killed by one sword. Seventh Master Shao looked at these corpses, and paid attention to the direction where the corpses fell, the distance and direction where the blood splattered, and the density of the blood closest to the corpses. He didn't miss a single drop and said, "This man's sword moves as he pleases." After entering the door, more than 10 people died here. Obviously, that man stayed here for a while and was besieged. He shouldn't have stayed here. With his swordsmanship, these people couldn't stop him at all. Why did he stay here? Seventh Master Shao looked at the clean wounds on the corpses and frowned as he pondered. Unless, he deliberately waited here to be besieged, and then killed all of them. When he came here, he obviously found his target. So, the 113 people here were cut in half by his sword at the waist at the same time. One sword? He killed 113 people at the same time? The other two men raised their heads in shock. That's right. Seventh Master Shao stood at the place where the sword spirit swung his sword at that time. Looking at the corpses around him, Seventh Master Zhao's face turned solemn. He pulled out his long sword and made a slash. He closed his eyes, as if he was experiencing and imitating this person's action at that time. After a long time, he shook his head disappointedly. "I can't do it," he sighed. "This person's swordsmanship is really unpredictable. He kills people like grass. His viciousness is also rarely seen in the world." Then he saw the lonely 18 steps, the 8 corpses, and the broken weapons on the ground. His eyes revealed a strong desire to fight, and he muttered, "What an overbearing martial art! What an overbearing sword! If I can fight with this person." Seventh Master Shao raised his head and frowned. His eyes were deep. A low groan of pain came from not far away. "There's still a survivor here. It's Xiao Yuqing." One of them hurriedly jumped over. He looked down and exclaimed, "All the bones in his body have been turned into powder. He can't move at all." "Seventh Master, if you want to ask him something, you can only ask him like this. If he moves, he'll die immediately." Seventh Master Shao strode over and looked down at Xiao Yuqing. "Xiao Yuqing?" Seventh Master. Xiao Yuqing groaned weakly. "What's the matter?" Seventh Master Shao asked. 300 votes. Chapter 837. Part 7 Part 113. Threading the Needle Update. It's a masked man in black. Xiao Yuqing's memory was even a little blurred. Net Seventh Master Shao pointed his finger at Xiao Yuqing's forehead like a sword, and a pure sword essence penetrated into his forehead. It was like a complete coolness that watered Xiao Yuqing's mind. Sword Heart Autumn Water. This wasn't a finger but a sword. This sword was filled with a chilling and sobering power. Although the person's head would be smashed into pieces after this sword, and there was absolutely no hope of survival, it could support a dying person to finish what he wanted to say. This was the means of the Sword Emperor. "Speak," Seventh Master Xiao said in a low voice. The masked man in black had a bleak and vicissitude aura. He killed as soon as he came. He killed his way in from the gate. Xiao Yuqing was shocked and recalled carefully. I asked him what hatred he had. He said the hatred of severing his descendants. Xiao Yuqing said intermittently. Seventh Master Zhao's face became more and more serious, and a chill condensed into frost on his face. Then, I don't know anything. Xiao Yuqing finally finished speaking, and the power of the sword heart autumn water was about to explode. Suddenly he felt an overwhelming pain, and he screamed, Seventh Master, give me a quick death. Obviously, he had found out about his miserable state. Severing my descendants, for severing my descendants' revenge. Seventh Master Xiao muttered to himself. Without looking at the sword in his hand, he stabbed it into Xiao Yuqing's throat. Send a message to Xiao Sei. Xiao Sei. His well-defined face was full of contemplation. Suddenly he snorted and said, Could it be the Huang clan? At this moment, the power of the sword heart autumn water exploded in Xiao Yuqing's head. With a bang, Xiao Yuqing's head exploded like a watermelon. Seventh Master Zhao's robe fluttered, blocking the flesh and blood outside. He was still in contemplation. Author's note. Pure TXT novels are updated 24/7 nonstop. The people of the Huang clan came to the flat mountain ridge this afternoon. An expert beside him said thoughtfully, and his eyes flashed fiercely. Does the Huang family have the guts to attack us here? Seventh Master Xiao raised his sword-like eyebrows. His gaze was cold. Isn't it too brazen? Another person next to him quietly said, When people reach a dead end, they will have no descendants. Now that they have found the culprit, I'm afraid no one would be able to remain calm. If it's the Huang clan, then who is it? Seventh Master Xiao pondered and said, I still think it's impossible. Although the Huang clan feels wronged and indignant, it's not very rational to take action at this time. Even though he was a sword maniac, how could his intelligence be doubted, since he was able to cultivate to the Sword Emperor realm? He was definitely a genius among geniuses. After thinking about it, he found a loophole. Besides, who in the Huang clan could emit such a desolate aura? Seventh Master Xiao frowned. That person is at least 1,000 years old. After a long period of loneliness, he could emit such an aura. And he's using a sword. Although he isn't a sword emperor, his standard is able to surpass me, a sword emperor. Who is it? Seventh Master Xiao couldn't figure it out. He waved his hand and said, Send a message to the clan. Check all the famous seniors of the Huang clan in the past 2,000 years. Yes. Clean up this place, and throw all the corpses into the fire. Yes. Collect all the wealth inside. We're going to set off. Yes. Seventh Master Zhao's eyes were deep. Looking at the fire in the sky, he muttered to himself, Why do I feel that there's a big net falling from the sky? Is there going to be a big crisis? Just when Seventh Master Xiao arrived at the fire, Chu Yang, who was possessed by the sword spirit, entered a dense forest at lightning speed. His black robe was fluttering in the wind. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived at the top of the tallest tree. Standing on the tree, he moved up and down with the wind. At this moment, Chu Yang's huge spiritual power was completely combined with the sword spirit's spiritual power. His spiritual power spread out in all directions. Author's note. Pure TXT novels are updated 24/7 nonstop. There's obviously a sword intent coming from the sky towards the fire. It must be the main mission of the Xiao clan. Why don't you let me kill him? The sword spirit asked discontentedly. Do you still want to keep him alive? If you kill him, who's going to pass the message back? Chu Yang rolled his eyes. Besides, killing him is only secondary. Keeping this person alive is far more useful than killing him for a moment. The sword spirit was silent for a while and said, You're thinking too fast. Do you think that we can really shift the blame to the Huang clan by doing this? Let the Xiao clan believe it? You should know that this method is considered inferior. The Xiao clan won't be fooled. Chu Yang laughed. We didn't let them be fooled directly. As long as they have some doubts in their hearts, it'll be fine. Now the Huang clan has an excuse to take action, but the Xiao clan still lacks an excuse. And our killing this time is purely to give the Xiao clan an excuse to take action. That's all. If they decide to take action, No matter whether this matter is true or not, it'll be a reason. Reason? Then, why do you still want to include Yi Wubua? The sword spirit was a little puzzled about this. Since you've already shifted the blame to the Huang clan, why do you still want to involve the Yi clan at this moment? Won't this make things even more complicated and confusing? I naturally have my reasons for involving Yi Wubua. Only by making this matter even more mysterious and unpredictable. Then it'll be more interesting. By the way, have you found Yi Wubua? Chu Yang asked. Don't worry. The sword spirit closed his eyes and carefully sensed the aura within the search area. Yi Wubua has suffered such a big loss here. He'll definitely not be willing to retreat like this, Chu Yang said affirmatively. So, as long as we're determined to find him, we'll definitely be able to find him. There's no doubt about this. Yi Wubua's character is obstinate and self-opinionated. How can he be willing to be played by others? The sword spirit nodded and agreed with Chu Yang. He'll definitely wait to fight with 7th Master Xiao to vent his anger. And 7th Master Xiao from the Xiao clan is the highest person in charge of the Xiao clan this time. Chu Yang nodded. This news comes from the law enforcement master of the southeast region. It's definitely Han Shaoran's news. The sword spirit agreed. If the news that Han Shaoran got from the southeast region was still wrong, then the Xiao clan would really become a big joke. This was the reason why Chu Yang mentioned the word 7th Master to Yi Wubua that day after he talked with Han Shaoran. When Han Shaoran said that, he didn't mean it intentionally, but Chu Yang listened attentively. He would store all the information that was beneficial to himself in his mind. Once it was useful, he would be able to pull it out immediately. Chu Yang wouldn't be able to shift the blame to someone who didn't have any basis, or couldn't be triggered immediately. If he wanted to do something, he would do something big. 7th Master wasn't something he said casually. How many 7th Masters were there in the world? Or in big clans? There were many 7th Masters. But how many 7th Masters could have the cultivation of a sword emperor? In the entire heavens, only 7th Master Xiao from the Xiao clan could have such a cultivation. Since Han Shaoran knows that 7th Master Xiao is coming, with the ability of the Yi clan's intelligence network, it's impossible for Yi Wubua to not know, Chu Yang said heavily. So Yi Wubua is definitely looking for 7th Master Xiao, the sword spirit concluded. And with such a big thing happening in the Xiao clan's branch, it's impossible for 7th Master Xiao to not be there. That sharp sword intent is very likely to be him, Chu Yang said. So you're thinking, as long as you find Yi Wubua and lure him a little, you can make him go to the fire to look for 7th Master Xiao. Then you can make this matter more complicated. So you don't just want to cause a war between the Huang clan and the Xiao clan, but also want to drag the Yi clan into a war between the 3 clans? The sword spirit smiled. Of course, although the Huang clan is powerful enough, it's still too weak compared to the Xiao clan. If they really shed all pretenses and fight to the death, the Huang clan is definitely not the Xiao clan's opponent. Chu Yang said lightly. Of course I have to find an ally for the Huang clan. Now that Yi Wubua has come to the southeast region, if I don't find him, who else can I find? Insidious. The sword spirit laughed. You're wrong. Chu Yang smiled. Yi Wubua is now racking his brains to find 7th Master Xiao. Now that I've sent 7th Master Xiao to him, Yi Wubua should be grateful to me. After we're done with this, we can watch the show, Chu Yang said. Find Yi Wubua as soon as possible. The sword spirit laughed. Your way of thinking is indeed different from the others. Well, let me accompany you to complete the embryonic stage of this war between the 3 clans. Immediately, a trace of complacency appeared in the sword spirit's smiling eyes. I've found Yi Wubua. The fluctuation of the Yi clan's unique martial arts is extremely obvious. Where is he? Chu Yang asked excitedly. 3,000 feet away. The sword spirit smiled gently. The next moment, the black figure shot out like a bolt of lightning. It flew out like a wisp of flowing smoke. The black figure swept across the ground silently. Behind him, the patch of green trees that had once borne the weight of a person swayed gently in the breeze. It seemed that it didn't realize that a person weighing more than 50 kilograms was standing on it just now. Yi Wubua's face was gloomy. He was sitting quietly in the room. Ever since he returned to this temporary residence, Yi Wubwa had been meditating here. Although he was a little obstinate and self-opinionated, he wasn't a fool. Chu Feilong's matter was dealt with cleanly and neatly in a fit of rage. Now that such a long time had passed, his mind had gradually calmed down, and he had discovered a lot of suspicious points. Chu Feilong shouldn't have exposed himself in front of him after setting up a trap. He shouldn't have brought his 2 sons along. Chu Yang was only a doctor without any cultivation. Why did Chu Feilong think that he could withstand his interrogation? Since he couldn't withstand it, then Chu Feilong's actions couldn't be explained at all. But what he used was the triple-stage soul seizure, the top-secret martial arts of the Yi clan, that was only passed down to females. Would there be any loopholes? Yi Wubwa reprimanded the old man's guess, but he himself started to be suspicious. After he came back last night, he immediately used a secret technique to send out his doubts. Has the triple-stage soul seizure ever failed? 400 votes. Thank you to the 2 Alliance Masters for your tips. Thank you to all my brothers and sisters for your tips. There are too many people, so I can't list them one by one. I can only say one sentence. Heartfelt thanks. Chapter 838. Yi Wubwa waited until this afternoon before he received a reply from the headquarters of the Yi clan. It was a stiff reply. No. Can't you fucking say it in detail? These 2 dry words made Yi Wubwa scold. Will writing a few more words kill you bastards? But since the headquarters had sent the word no, the people at the headquarters must be inexplicably annoyed by Yi Wubwa's question. As the younger brother of the Yi clan, do you have so little confidence in your clan's martial arts? If it had failed before, wouldn't your clan have reminded you time and again to pay attention to it? To think that you would ask such a stupid and retarded question. But this made Yi Wubwa even more puzzled. If it had never failed before, it meant that it was absolutely feasible. But is Chu Feilong really a fool? Crazy. Such a seemingly simple, but actually complicated question made Yi Wubwa entangled in it for a long time. Marshal Yin clap clap. Yi Wubwa clapped his hands and said gloomily, all of you come here. In a split second, 4 expert guards quietly walked in. Yi Wubwa's eyes flashed with a ghastly light, and he suppressed his doubts about Chu Feilong. He decided not to think about this anymore. Chu Feilong was already dead, and he was the one who gave the order to kill him. Even if he killed the wrong person, then so be it. But it's just Chu Feilong. At most, the deployment in the southeast region would be a little weak, and it would be a little embarrassing if they couldn't achieve the expected goal. But by then, as long as they pushed the responsibility to Han Xiaoran, who would blame them? With the law enforcement master of the southeast region, Han Xiaoran, obstructing them, who would be able to carry out this plan smoothly? That would be a joke. Looking at the 4 people's puzzled faces, Yi Wubwa said gloomily, what do you think about 7th Master Xiao? 7th Master Xiao. The elder with the goatee frowned. He looked at Yi Wubwa hesitantly and retracted his head. Webb, if you have something to say, say it. The ghastly light in Yi Wubwa's eyes shone brightly, and he shouted angrily. I think that 7th Master Xiao's matter, whether it's true or not, still needs to be verified. The elder with the goatee was a little depressed. The last time I said it, I was almost choked to death by your big hot fart. You still need me to say it this time. But there are indeed many suspicious points in this matter. Goatee was conflicted, so he chose his words carefully. Still need to be verified? Yi Wubwa snorted coldly. How? Go find 7th Master Xiao and ask him. Did you kill 3rd Ma? Is this how you verify it? The horse-faced old man lowered his head and stopped talking. The southeast is the Xiao clan's territory. Yi Wubwa said solemnly. According to the news that we've received, ever since Xiao Yulong, the head of the Xiao clan's local branch, suffered a setback in the Purple Crystal's Huichun Hall. Not only did he lose his life, but he also lost his purple crystals. Afterwards, the Xiao clan sent a guy called Xiao Yuqing to take charge. However, the Dark Ones sent someone else to observe in secret. And this person has the right to kill everyone in the flat mountain ridge. Yi Wubwa said gloomily. Do you know who this person is? The old man with the goatee was sweating. According to the family's information, this is 7th Master Xiao. Yi Wubwa looked at him coldly. Does this mean that 7th Master Xiao is already here? Yes. Then, who in the whole southeast can kill 3rd Ma easily with the cultivation of a sword emperor? Who else? Yi Wubua's eyes flashed with ghostly fire. He was obviously impatient with this old man with the goatee. Only 7th Master Xiao. The old man with the goatee was sweating even more. If it's not 7th Master Xiao, did you kill him? Yi Wubua said angrily. You have a goatee, but don't tell me you also have a goat's head. The old man with the goatee was sweating profusely. 13th Master, please calm down. Order the local Yi clan spies to search for 7th Master Xiao. Once they find him, report back to me immediately. Yi Wubua stood up, and his eyes flashed with coldness. Since 7th Master Xiao killed 3rd Ma, he must know my plan very well. For so many years. Ha ha ha. 7th Master Xiao, how can I let you off? Yi Wubua's face was distorted. Marshal Yin Yang, the other 3 people agreed at the same time. Everyone was ashamed and angry. Right at this moment, the sword spirit's ghostly figure flew over from 1,000 feet away. He smiled coldly. Yi Wubua. In the room, Yi Wubua immediately became alert and shouted, Who are you? Tell me your name. With a boom, the 5 of them broke through the roof at the same time and came to the sky. But they saw a dazzling sword light flying towards them. At this moment, it was as if countless stars in the sky had fallen at the same time. The stars filled the entire horizon. Even if the sun suddenly appeared in the dark night, it would definitely not be as dazzling as the sword light at this moment. Although this sword light was a sneak attack, it was majestic, as if a monarch was looking down on the world. It was filled with the domineering spirit of I have the power to decide the fate of the world. When the sword light flashed, Yi Wubua and the other 4 swordsmen heard a clear sound from their scabbards at the same time, as if their long swords were bowing and submitting to the Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor! Yi Wubua was furious and roared, 7th Master Xiao, don't hide your head and show your tail. How dare you use such a childish method in front of me? Don't you think it's ridiculous? The 5 of them drew out their swords at the same time, and pounced on Yi Wubua crazily. The sword light filled the air, and a gloomy voice, which seemed to have changed his own voice, said hoarsely, Who's 7th Master Xiao? Yi Wubua, are you crazy? Yi Wubua was so angry that his nose became crooked. You're standing right in front of me. Do you think that you can hide from me by changing your voice? Do you think that I, Yi Wubua, am so gullible? You've lied to me for 18 years. Do you really think that I'm retarded? With a bang, the 5 of them collided with each other fiercely. That majestic sword aura let out a sharp whistle, and instantly countless sword aura burst out. Yi Wubua and the other 4 people were caught off guard. Their clothes were torn apart by the sword aura. 2 of them even had their shoulders and waists slashed by the sword aura. Fortunately, they dodged quickly and didn't suffer the disaster of being cut open. But the black figure opposite them didn't have it easy either. With a cough, he somersaulted 100 feet away and said hoarsely, Yi Wubua, you're really scheming. You actually brought so many people to ambush me in the middle of the night. Yi Wubua was furious. You despicable, shameless and obscene 7th Master Xiao. You came to ambush me in the middle of the night. And you still have the face to say that I'm here to ambush you. Do you dare to ambush me in the Yi clan? The black figure sneered. Yi Wubua, have you eaten too much sulfur rice? Why are you spouting such nonsense? Who told you that I'm 7th Master Xiao? You're still denying it. Yi Wubua was so angry that he flew over like a bolt of lightning. The 4 people beside him roared at the same time and followed him. This time, the momentum was much greater than just now. After all, the other party had been accumulating power for a long time, and they responded hastily. But this time, they took the initiative to attack. Sword light and sword shadows instantly filled a radius of 400 feet. The masked man in black sneered. Look, this is the prestige of the #1 clan in the heavens. Your Yi clan only has this little ability. Other than winning by numbers, what other heroic means does your Yi clan have? Yi Wubua scolded angrily. 7th Master Xiao bullshit. You're not fit to be beaten up. Your Xiao clan isn't noble either. You're all shameless people who dare to do things, but don't dare to admit to it. The masked man in black was so furious that his voice changed a little. Yi Wubua, Junja doesn't speak ill of you. But you're so presumptuous. How dare you insult your elders? Is this the upbringing of your Yi clan? This roar seemed to have exposed his real voice under his fury. Especially the words Yi Wubwa at the beginning. It was even more ghastly and sharp. Although his voice changed into a hoarse and unpleasant accent, Yi Wubwa was a very clever person. He couldn't restrain his anger. You're still pretending. The two of them fought crazily. The clanging sounds of swords colliding sounded, as if tens of thousands of people were forging iron together. They were all in high spirits and attacked crazily. Wonderful unique skills emerged one after another. The whole radius of 1,000 feet was filled with sword aura. Rumbling sounds continued to be heard. All the trees in the vicinity were cut in half by the saber light and sword chi. One by one they fell down. Dust and sand flew everywhere, covering the sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. After all, the masked man in black was only one person. Even though he had the cultivation of a sword emperor, how could he resist the attacks of the five of them alone? Although he tried his best to hold on, he gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. Being surrounded by the five of them, he was in a precarious situation. Yi Wubwa's sword flashed, and layers of sword light flashed out. He laughed sarcastically. Seventh Master Shao, aren't you a sword emperor? Show me what you're capable of. Why do you have to be so secretive? Won't you be wronged if you lose your life in vain? Yi Wubwa, you should really get rid of your tricks. You don't even know who you've offended. How dare you say that I'm 7th Master Shao? My name is Ling Hanshan of the Ling family, and I have never changed my name. The masked man in black said hoarsely. ***. You're still Ling Hanshan at this moment? Yi Wubwa laughed and ridiculed. Why don't you say that you're the Dharma Supreme? The masked man in black lowered his head and didn't say a word, because his situation was even worse. His black clothes were already full of holes. Blood was gradually flowing out from his wounds. Suddenly he roared. Yi Wubwa, you forced me to do this. As the sword light flashed, an awe-inspiring sword intent suddenly appeared, as if it was pressing down from the sky. Then, the sword wind emitted a whooshing sound, and a sense of desolation arose spontaneously. It was as if the whole world had suddenly changed from early autumn to late autumn at this moment. The sword light turned into fine raindrops and spread out in all directions. The coldness of autumn fills the world, and the autumn wind and rain kills. Yi Wubwa shouted angrily. 7th Master Shao, you finally used your Shao clan's autumn wind and rain sword. I've been waiting for this moment. 500 votes. Chapter 839. The masked man in black didn't say a word, but only sneered. Brandishing the sword. Sword aura soared to the sky. This was the unique sword technique of the Shao clan. Once the sword emperor was used, the situation changed instantly. The sword spirit had followed the previous master of the calamity sword, and the Shao clan was one of the calamities of the previous master. How could the sword spirit not know the sword technique of the Shao clan? But this usage of the sword technique had confirmed his name as 7th Master Shao of the Shao clan. Yi Wubwa let out a long roar. The five of them retreated in 5 different directions at the same time, and then jumped up at the same time. After a series of shuttles in the air, the 5 figures transformed into a light net and rushed down madly without any blind spots. The masked man in black yelled, revealing his extreme exasperation. Yi Wubwa, your Yi clan indeed harbors evil intentions. You've already researched the formation to deal with the autumn wind and autumn rain sword. Yi Wubwa laughed complacently. It's too late for you to know now. 7th Master Shao, it's your fortune to die here and in my hands. 18 years of humiliation, you must be fucking satisfied, right? Sword lights and sword shadows fell madly. The black-clothed masked man yelled, and the sword chi filled up again. Suddenly, he bent his body, and the black-clothed man disappeared mysteriously. A stream of light, like a rolling cylinder, suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. Its whole body was brightly colored, sparkling and translucent, like a silver dragon, crazily appearing. Shooting. Man and sword as one. Yi Wubwa gritted his teeth. Don't retreat. Kill him. If you kill 7th Master Shao today, it'll be a great achievement. The 5 weapons carried a desperate stance. and mixed with the power of the 5 people, fiercely chopped down on the rolling sword light. It was like a bomb suddenly exploding. Light splashed everywhere. All of them groaned at the same time. The rolling ray of sword light was like a snake that was suddenly hit at its weak point when it was about to attack. After a series of distortions, the sword light dispersed, and a figure in black with disheveled hair fell to the ground. He staggered a few steps back and roared, "Yi Wubwa, I'll remember you." Before he finished his words, he spat out a mouthful of blood from behind the cloth covering his face. He staggered for a moment, then suddenly jumped up. "Stop him! Don't let him escape." The injuries of Yi Wubwa and the others were much lighter than that of the masked man in black. With the joy of victory, the 5 of them rushed up crazily, ignoring the pain on their bodies. The black-clothed man dashed left and right, but he couldn't rush out. Seeing that he was about to be cut into pieces by the sword, he suddenly let out a long howl. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. His long sword flashed with brilliance and once again turned into a rolling silver dragon sword light, fiercely rushing in the direction of Goatee. Novel network slash with a bang, Goatee's body was sent flying like an embroidered ball. He flew high into the air, and then unconsciously fell to the ground. The sword light suddenly rushed out like a long dragon. 7th Master Xiao actually used the secret technique of burning his life to escape. Although this method was fast for the time being, it definitely wouldn't last long. He was seriously injured and definitely couldn't walk far. As long as I catch up with him, it'll be his death. Yi Wubwa's expression was mournful and crazy. With a leap, he chased after Yi Wubwa crazily. Another person behind him leaped up and caught Goatee in his arms. Then, he continued to chase after Yi Wubwa's figure in front of him. Her figure swept past like a gust of wind. In front of them, the silver dragon-like shadow seemed to have taken an aphrodisiac. It got further and faster, and finally disappeared in the night. But Yi Wubwa and the others were already in a killing frenzy. How could they stop here? Besides, 7th Master Xiao had already used the secret technique of burning his life potential. As long as they could catch up with him, this #1 sword genius of the Xiao clan in 100 years would die in their hands. This was tantamount to eliminating a future sword supremacy. That was an absolute threat to anyone. They absolutely couldn't let go of such a heaven-sent opportunity. Yi Wubwa, together with his 3 subordinates, carried Goatee on his back and chased after 7th Master Xiao in the direction where the sword light disappeared. In the fire, 7th Master Xiao was standing with his hands clasped behind his back, waiting for his 2 subordinates to pack up their belongings. Under the blazing fire, 7th Master Xiao kept urging, "Hurry up! Hurry up!" 7th Master Xiao felt a little uneasy. This kind of feeling made him wary and fearful. Where did this feeling of panic and uneasiness come from? Is there a danger in this southeast region that's enough to kill me? This feeling hadn't appeared for a long time, but 7th Master Xiao believed in his own feelings and intuition. So, he was more or less impatient. His heart also seemed to have grown grass, and he actually felt a little uneasy. He frowned and thought about what had happened, and what had happened. Then he paced back and forth unconsciously. The 2 subordinates finally rushed out from the blazing fire. Each of them was carrying a box in their hands. They were the treasures, crystals, and some rare medicines of the local branch. "How is it?" 7th Master Xiao asked anxiously. "There's no loss at all. But there's 2 little purple crystals. There's only less than 3,000 pieces. The black crystals are also in this box. There's a total of 5,000 pieces. It's a little heavy." One of his subordinates carried a box that was almost twice as big as his body. He smiled and said, "I didn't pack up the rest of the white crystals, gold and silver. I just threw them here. There's not a lot of medicines. There are 30 to 40 stocks that are still useful. I've taken them all. But there's only this." The other person carried a small box and said, "Big brother, I'm going to find something else. Give me some of the things. That way we can walk faster." 7th Master Zhao's face was heavy. He said, "Hurry up." That person responded. Then, he went to some of the rooms that weren't on fire to search for the medicines. 7th Master Xiao became more and more upset. He said, "There's something wrong with this. Why do I have such a feeling?" The person next to him put the big box on the ground and sat on it. He said, "Seventh Master, what's wrong?" "I can't tell the reason. I just feel confused." Seventh Master Xiao frowned tightly. "This is an ominous sign." The guard laughed and said, "Seventh Master, you're thinking too much. In the whole southeast region, who dares to provoke our Xiao clan? Even the Huang clan, who almost had no descendants because of those people from the Severing Hall, only dared to vent their anger on our branch. Moreover, they're hiding their heads and tails. They're not magnanimous at all." Seventh Master Xiao said, "This matter won't be so simple. I feel that there's a lot of danger. We must be careful." He frowned seriously and said, "Only by being careful can the ship sail for 10,000 years. Yes. The guard didn't think much of it, but he still responded respectfully. "Tell your brother to hurry up." Seventh Master Xiao said. The two of them were blood brothers. Furthermore, they were twins. Their joint attack techniques were unparalleled among those of the same generation in the Xiao clan. One was called Yin Shan, and the other was called Yin Hai. The two brothers had equal strength. They both advanced to the 8th stage of monarch level at the same time. They were 7th Master Zhao's right-hand men. When the three of them were together, it was unknown how many storms and waves they had weathered. Before he finished his words, Yin Hai had already rolled out a few sheets from a room and spread them on the ground. He said, "Big brother, give me half of the things. I'll carry them." Yin Shan said, "Okay." Then he carried the big box and walked over. This big box was close to 3,000 pounds. It was indeed a bit strenuous for him to carry it. It was fine for a short distance, but if he carried it for a long distance, he was afraid that his speed would be extremely slow. 7th Master Xiao stood up with his hand on the sword hilt. He looked at the road and listened carefully. He felt more and more uncomfortable. He couldn't help but urge again, "Hurry up." Yin Shan and Yin Hai felt that something was wrong at the same time. 7th Master was usually the most patient. Moreover, he was always calm even if a mountain collapsed in front of him. But what happened today? Since they started to pack up the belongings, 7th Master had already urged them several times. Why? Right at this moment, a desolate, lonely, and ancient aura suddenly filled the sky. 7th Master Zhao's eyes flashed with sword-like light. He suddenly raised his head. My feeling wasn't wrong. They've really come. At this moment, the messy emotions in 7th Master Zhao's heart were completely restrained and disappeared. What replaced it was a battle intent that had been washed away. 7th Master Xiao didn't move, but his body was already surrounded by sword aura. "Since you've come, hurry up and attack." 7th Master Xiao shouted coldly. As if responding to his words, a black shadow suddenly appeared in the distance. The moment it appeared, a sword light flashed fiercely. Then, it appeared in front of 7th Master Zhao's eyes in a flash, just like the legendary shrinking distance. 7th Master Zhao's pupils contracted. It's so fast. It's so powerful. This is the most brilliant enemy that I've encountered since I started my cultivation. This will also be the most dangerous battle in my life. 7th Master Zhao's long sword was already in his hand. He was still empty-handed just now, but the long sword was already in his hand without any sound. He turned his body and jumped. A round and bright sword light appeared directly. It was the killing move of man and sword as one. The moment 7th Master Xiao saw the opponent, he knew that if he didn't go all out in the face of such an enemy, he would only be killed unjustly. He wouldn't even have a complete corpse. So he used man and sword as one, but the black shadow was too fast. It rushed over like lightning. The two sword lights collided with each other silently, and then separated with a bang. 7th Master Zhao's sword light was defeated in one blow. This was simply unimaginable. Ever since 7th Master Xiao became the Sword Emperor, he had never thought that such a situation would happen. 7th Master Xiao staggered back. He looked at the man in black who continued to chase after him in horror and exclaimed, "Sword Emperor?" The man in black didn't answer him. He didn't stop and continued to rush forward. 7th Master Xiao shouted and tried his best to block. He knew that he was definitely not the opponent, but he still had to risk his life. At this moment, he would only die if he didn't risk his life. At this moment, Yin Shan and Yin Hai finally reacted. They roared loudly and rushed forward. But the man in black was even faster. His long sword connected the whole heaven and earth at this moment. In an instant, there were 1,500 swords slashing towards 7th Master Xiao like a storm. 7th Master Xiao felt cold all over, and a sense of despair surged up. He tried his best to block with his long sword, but he couldn't. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 7th Master Xiao's clothes were torn into pieces in an instant. Streaks of blood appeared, but they weren't deep. 7th Master Xiao felt strange after escaping from death. This person's cultivation is obviously far above mine. He can kill me easily. Why didn't he kill me? Why did he just leave some small wounds on my body? Chapter 840. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Regarding this matter, 7th Master Xiao couldn't figure it out. Logically speaking, since he had such strength, wouldn't it be easy to kill him? But he didn't kill him. Is he playing with me? Just as he was wondering, the black-robed man hit his chest with his palm like lightning. A sword light flashed and went into his mouth, piercing his tongue. 7th Master Xiao was furious and said, "Kill me if you want. Why are you making fun of me?" But the black-robed man didn't say a word. He quickly retreated and avoided Yunshan and Yunhai. He went behind the two of them like a ghost, and the two boxes on the ground disappeared instantly. The black-robed man jumped up and disappeared in a flash. From the moment the black-robed man appeared to the moment he left, it didn't even take half a breath's time. But the sword genius of the Xiao clan, 7th Master Xiao, had been defeated. He was injured. He even wandered around the threshold of death countless times. And he didn't die in the end, because the other party showed mercy. But for a proud person like 7th Master Xiao, this kind of mercy was not as comfortable as being cut into pieces. 7th Master Xiao opened his eyes in grief and indignation. He watched the black-robed man disappear into the night sky. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered backward. He sat on the ground, and his whole body trembled. It wasn't fear but anger. 7th Master Xiao was crazy about swords all his life. He rarely suffered a crushing defeat. But it wasn't that he didn't suffer any defeats. But today, he didn't even have the strength to fight back, and was beaten to a pulp. Moreover, the other party was like a cat playing with a mouse, scratching him here and there, cutting his clothes until he was even more miserable than a beggar. But he didn't kill him. The most excessive thing was that the sword pierced into his mouth, but only pierced his tongue a little. The other party didn't kill him. Are you fucking here to humiliate me? 7th Master Xiao roared to the sky. His tears fell down in grief and indignation. It was too shameful, too humiliating. Recalling the cold feeling of the sword piercing into his mouth, 7th Master Xiao couldn't help but vomit. As he vomited, he cursed and cried. He lay on the ground and panted. "Come and kill me if you have the guts," 7th Master Xiao said angrily. Yunshan and Yunhai stood beside 7th Master Xiao awkwardly and said, "7th Master, the other party is the sword sovereign king. Losing to such a person isn't shameful at all." 7th Master Xiao roared angrily. "So what if he's the king? Even if he is a supreme being, he can't humiliate me like this. A warrior prefers death to humiliation. Such humiliation? What the fuck is going on?" Yunshan and Yunhai were speechless. To be honest, today's matter was indeed sullen. No one was afraid of death. They were all Jianghu people. So wasn't life and death a very normal thing? In Jianghu, if you don't kill someone, you'll be killed. But this kind of naked humiliation didn't seem like something an expert would do. Novel network/killing people is just a matter of nodding your head to the ground. After scolding for a while, 7th Master Xiao finally calmed down. He panted and said, "Fuck." Yunshan and Yunhai were slightly relieved. They moved forward and asked, "7th Grandpa, are you alright?" 7th Master Xiao felt uncomfortable in his chest and abdomen. He spat out another mouthful of blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "I won't die." At this moment, 4 figures came in from the outside like a hurricane. When they saw 7th Master Xiao sitting on the ground and spitting out blood, the person in the front laughed loudly. 7th Master Xiao. "Fuck you. Run away. Why don't you run away? Fuck you. How dare you play tricks in front of the 13th Master? Is this what your ancestors taught you?" It was Yi Wubua. As Yi Wubwa chased, he realized that there was a fire in front of him. It turned out to be the Xiao clan's branch clan. He instantly took pleasure in 7th Master Zhao's misfortune. Then, he saw 7th Master Xiao sitting on the ground and spitting out blood. His clothes were torn and tattered by them. He felt even more comfortable. This guy used the secret technique of burning his life. Sure enough, he couldn't hold on for long. Luckily, I, the 13th Master, was far-sighted and chased him relentlessly. I finally intercepted this guy who was at the end of his rope. Let's see where you can run to. Just when 7th Master Xiao was suffering, another 4 people came out of nowhere. It was 5 people. One of them was actually being carried by someone else. Before 7th Master Xiao could see clearly who it was, the other party scolded him furiously. Immediately, Xiaoqi was puzzled and furious. Only then did he see clearly that it was an acquaintance. It was the 13th Master of the Yi clan, Yi Wubwa. 7th Master Xiao was originally annoyed, angry and sorrowful. When he heard Yi Wubwa's impolite words, he instantly flared up and said furiously, "Yi Wubwa, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've become so impolite. How can you speak like that? How can you say such words? You're simply a bastard." Although the two of them weren't very familiar with each other, they had met each other a few times. Since they were all descendants of big clans, how could they not meet each other frequently? When they met each other in the past, they would just nod and smile. They didn't dare to have a deep relationship with each other, but they also wouldn't offend each other. So 7th Master Xiao didn't like what Yi Wubwa said today. "Fuck your grandmother." The fire in Yi Wubwa's eyes flickered, and he scolded furiously. "7th Master Xiao, do you still think you're innocent?" 7th Master Xiao stood up suddenly. He felt that his chest was going to explode from anger. He said, "Yi Wubwa, you bastard. Have I dug up your ancestral grave? Why are you scolding me with your mouth full of shit? You're really ridiculous. Our 2 clans are both heavenly clans, and we've always been on good terms. How can you say such words today? What's your intention?" 7th Master Xiao was furious, but he didn't expect Yi Wubwa to be even more furious after hearing this. "Do you really think I'm a fool? You said you're not 7th Master Xiao when you put on the mask, but you're 7th Master Xiao when you take off the mask? We've just fought and Big Neo, who was injured by you, is still on Big Neo's back. Now that you're at a disadvantage, you still have the face to talk about the friendship between our 2 clans? Friendship your ass." Yi Wubwa was so angry that he laughed. 7th Master Xiao, we've known each other for dozens of years. Only today did I realize that you're such a genius. You're really a genius. Do you really think I'm a fool? How can you speak so eloquently?" 7th Master Xiao was so angry that he was seeing stars. He pointed at Yi Wubwa and shouted, "Yi Wubwa, if you don't give me an explanation today, I'll never let this matter rest." Yi Wubwa smiled sinisterly. "You still want to let this matter rest? You're dreaming." He pointed at 7th Master Xiao with his long sword and shouted, "7th Master Xiao, you killed my men, sneak attacked me and played with me for 18 years. Tonight, you even seriously injured my right-hand man and almost killed him. I, Yi Wubwa, am absolutely irreconcilable with you. Today is the day you die. Go." "Wait," 7th Master Xiao shouted. No matter how slow-witted he was, after hearing Yi Wubwa's words, he understood that he and Yi Wubwa had been schemed against. What did he mean by killed my men, sneak attacked me tonight, and played with me for 18 years? It's too strange. Yi Wubwa, calm down. I'm afraid we've fallen into a vicious trap tonight. 7th Master Xiao finally understood why that person didn't kill him just now. I see. He wants me and Yi Wubwa to have a life-and-death battle, so as to cause a conflict between the Xiao clan and the Yi clan. 7th Master Xiao originally didn't want to talk much. His tongue had been stabbed, and every word he said now would cause him great pain. But now that he had fallen into a trap, he had no choice but to speak. If it were someone else, not from a big clan, there wouldn't be such serious consequences. If you misunderstood, then so be it. But Yi Wubwa was not only a member of a big clan, but also a descendant of the Yi clan, which was ranked number 1. If this misunderstanding wasn't clarified, the consequences would be serious. After hearing 7th Master Zhao's words, Yi Wubwa tilted his head and looked at 7th Master Xiao with interest. You mean, we've all fallen into a vicious trap? Seventh Master Zhao's face was solemn. Yes. Brother Yi, don't be impulsive. Listen to me. This is really a misunderstanding. If you and I were to fight each other, because of a misunderstanding, wouldn't we fall into a trap? Wouldn't we hurt our loved ones and delight our enemies? Pain for those close to you, but joy for those who hate you. Yi Wubua's ghost fire, like eyes, looked even weirder under the illumination of the surrounding flames. His expression also became more interesting. Seventh Master Xiao, you're saying that you didn't do all these? Seventh Master Xiao shook his head seriously. I don't dare to be called Seventh Master Xiao by Brother Yi. But these things really weren't done by me. Brother Yi, you have to believe me. Yi Wubua drew back the corners of his mouth and smiled. So you didn't kill old Third Ma? Seventh Master Xiao was stunned. What old Third Ma? I haven't even heard of him. Besides, I, Seventh Master Xiao, have never killed a nameless person. Yi Wubua smiled. Yes, I've never killed a nameless person. He thought in his heart. I'm not a nameless person. Then he asked patiently and teasingly. So, Chu Feilong isn't your man too? Seventh Master Xiao said gloomily. Brother Yi, this is a joke. Isn't Chu Feilong a member of the Chu clan in the Flat Mountain Ridge? The Chu clan is just a small clan. How can I take a liking to Chu Feilong? But you, why did Chu Feilong suddenly appear? Well, you don't know Chu Feilong too. You're so clean. So, the one who fought with me just now wasn't you too? Yi Wubua's expression was very strange. He seemed to be smiling. Under his calm face, there seemed to be a volcano that was about to erupt. Seventh Master Xiao swallowed a mouthful of bloody saliva and said anxiously. Just now? Of course not. Brother Yi, I've been here all this time and didn't move at all. Brother Yi, you finally said the main point. You've been here all this time and didn't move at all. Yi Wubua repeated doubtfully. Suddenly, he roared like a thunderbolt. If you didn't move at all, where did your injuries come from? Do you have nothing better to do than to cut yourself? Seventh Master Xiao, you're not as stupid as you look. Seventh Master Xiao didn't know how to explain himself. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Just now, someone came to fight with me. When you came, he just left. Just left. Yi Wubua nodded his head hard and laughed mockingly. What a coincidence. It's really a coincidence. Seventh Master Xiao smiled bitterly. It's really a coincidence. So coincidental that I'm really speechless. Yi Wubua nodded his head repeatedly and looked at Seventh Master Xiao with an astonished look. He praised from the bottom of his heart. Seventh Master Xiao, you're awesome. You're talented. 700 votes. I'm still working hard. While you're voting, I'm also not idle. I've just sent a screenshot to the group. I've already written more than 20,000 words today. I haven't stopped for even a moment. In order to repay everyone's enthusiasm. Monthly votes. Can it be more intense? Chapter 841. Seventh Master Xiao could only smile bitterly. He knew that Yi Wubua didn't believe him, but he still tried his best to say, Yi Wubua, to be honest, am I someone who's afraid of trouble? Even if we really fight, do you think that I, Seventh Master Xiao, will be afraid of you? Seventh Master Xiao said sincerely. If I did all these things, why do I need to explain to you? Isn't it more straightforward to have a fight? Brother Yi, you must believe in my painstaking efforts. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Latest update asterisk asterisk asterisk. Yi Wubua laughed and said admiringly from the bottom of his heart. Seventh Master Xiao, Seventh Master Xiao, I really admire you. How did you grow that mouth of yours? I'm puzzled. When your upper lip touches your lower lip, the white becomes black. And when your lower lip touches your upper lip, the black becomes white again. Yi Wubua said speechlessly. Seventh Master Xiao, if you have such a mouth, why do you still practice swordsmanship? You can just stick out your tongue and rush up to any opponent you see. Even a supreme martial artist isn't your opponent. This mouth together with your thick skin, you're unrivaled in this world. Seventh Master Zhao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He said angrily, You don't believe me? Yi Wubua said, Don't talk nonsense with me. I only want to ask you, how did you get those injuries on your body? Don't talk nonsense like you've just fought with someone. Why aren't your two subordinates injured? You've just fought with someone here. And you're already injured like this. How can your two subordinates be so unharmed? Seventh Master Xiao said angrily. That person fought with me alone. And the time was very short. Once they started fighting, I was defeated. They didn't have time to do anything. Why, you don't believe me? Yi Wubo said smilingly. Then I heard that you don't seem to be very energetic when you talk. And your tongue seems to be in pain. Can I know what happened to your tongue? Seventh Master Zhao's face turned red. And he said angrily. It was cut by that person's sword. Why? You don't believe me? Yi Wubo's expression was strange. Can I understand it this way? Just now, someone came and exchanged blows with you. Your two subordinates didn't have time to react. And you were seriously injured. This person slashed you hundreds of times with his sword in one move, but you're still safe and sound. Then, this person inserted a sword into your mouth and lightly cut your tongue. Then this person left and we came, right? Seventh Master Xiao nodded. That's right. What you said is not at all. Yi Wubo's face changed and he laughed. The three people behind him laughed mockingly at the same time. Even the heavily injured goatee elder, who was carried on his brother's back, couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Asterisk asterisk. Latest update asterisk asterisk. What a fantastic story. Yi Wubo laughed until he was out of breath. Seventh Master Xiao. In the history of the heavenly layer, you're undoubtedly the number one in terms of eloquence, fabricating nonsense, lying and making irresponsible remarks. Seventh Master Zhao's face turned cold. He said, Yi Wubo, don't think that I'm afraid of you. I've already done my best and have a clear conscience. If you don't believe me, I can't do anything about it. When the truth comes to light in the future, I'm afraid that you'll be too ashamed to show your face. Done my best and have a clear conscience. Ha. Yi Wubo rocked back and forth. Finally, his face changed into a cold and vicious one. He scolded. Seventh Master Xiao, fuck your mother. Seventh Master Xiao, damn your ancestors. Seventh Master Xiao, I'll overturn 18 generations of your ancestors. You're a despicable and shameless bastard. You're a dirty and obscene bastard. You're a shameless bastard. You're a heartless motherfucker. You actually played me like a fool. Isn't it enough that you've played me for 18 years? Now you're telling such a big lie to my face. This scolding was really the culmination of all the scolding techniques. Yi Wubo scolded all of Seventh Master Zhao's female relatives, from his ancestors to his descendants. Seventh Master Xiao couldn't restrain his anger anymore. His face turned extremely dangerous and red. He breathed heavily. Yi Wubo, you're a bastard whose mouth is full of shit. You actually think that I'm afraid of you? That I've played you for 18 years? Damn your ancestors. Do you think that you're a virgin? Do I have so much interest in playing you for 18 years? Pooh. Since you want to fight, then let's fight. Don't tell me that I, Seventh Master Xiao, can't kill the 13th Master of the Yi clan tonight? Both of them were furious. Yi Wubo waved his hand. Go. Slaughter him to death for me. Regardless of the cost, he had to destroy this bastard here. The 13th Master will bear all the consequences. Seventh Master Xiao pointed with his long sword and roared. Kill these bastards from the Yi clan. Don't worry, I'll bear all the consequences. I'll fuck his ancestors to death. With a shout, both sides were already burning with rage. There was no need for any more encouragement. With a strange cry they began to fight. Yunshan and Yunhai joined forces to fight against the three experts of the Yi clan. Everyone was shouting loudly and fighting fiercely. Every strike of their saber was aimed at the opponent's vital parts. Every strike of their sword was aimed at the opponent's head. Yi Wubo and Seventh Master Xiao went straight to the point. It was a battle of kings. One of them gritted his teeth, while the other was furious. Killing moves and unique skills came out of their mouths, and filthy words came out of their mouths. Both of them fought and scolded each other at the same time. They fought fiercely and scolded each other fiercely. In just a short while, all the ancestors of the Yi clan, and the Xiao clan in the past 10,000 years, had been called out and scolded several times. Both of them were actually on par with each other. Although Seventh Master Xiao was 2 levels lower than Yi Wubo, he was a sword emperor. If both of them were in good condition, after a fierce battle, either both of them would be injured, or Yi Wubo would die and 7th Master Xiao would be crippled. There was such a subtle difference between them. But Yi Wubo had fought with the sword spirit first. He was injured and his strength was reduced by 30%. And 7th Master Xiao had just been severely humiliated by the sword spirit. This palm shook his internal organs, but it weakened 7th Master Xiao's strength by 35%. In this way, both of them were on par with each other in terms of strength. There was a saying, when one meets his match, a general will meet a talent. When one meets his match, one will fight for victory and defeat. And when a general meets a talent, one will gamble on victory and defeat. In the darkness, the sword spirit and Chu Yang were watching the fight with great delight. Under the illumination of the fire, it was simply one of the greatest pleasures in life to watch such a great show. It's such a pity. If 7th Master Zhao's sword was a little lower, Yi Wubo's right leg would be gone. Yes, if Yi Wubo's sword was a little higher, 7th Master Zhao's leg would also fly off. 7th Master Xiao is an idiot. He doesn't know how to be flexible. Yi Wubo is a good-for-nothing. He's too conformist. Chu Yang and the sword spirit commented as they watched the fight. They were in high spirits. When they saw the exciting parts, both of them couldn't wait to come out and criticize. It's so satisfying. It's so satisfying. The two unscrupulous fellows stayed in the same body, winking and laughing as they took pleasure in other people's misfortune. Two screams sounded at the same time. Yun Shan's left leg was stabbed, while the shoulder of the monarch-level expert, who was carrying the elder with a goatee on Yi Wubo's side, was slashed fiercely. His shoulder was almost chopped off. Both of them screamed at the same time and became furious. The battle between monarch-level experts was different from that between ordinary martial artists. Qi followed the heart, and the heart followed the sword. No matter where it was stabbed or chopped, the destructive qi would penetrate deeply and destroy the skin, meridians, tendons, and bones. Both of them retreated immediately and desperately operated their martial arts to force out the other party's qi. At the same time, they gritted their teeth and cursed at each other. On the other side, the battle between Yi Wubo and 7th Master Xiao was getting more and more dangerous. Up till now, they were already exchanging injuries for injuries and risking their lives for another. Their words were also getting harsher and harsher. They even brought out the old scandals from many years ago to attack the other party. Does your Yi clan still have any good things? For the power of your clan, you didn't hesitate to betray your own daughter and sacrifice her happiness. What kind of #1 clan is there? How many men do you have in your Yi clan? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? You're just like your ancestors, snobbish. Bastard. 7th Master Xiao cursed. Yi Wubo shouted furiously, bullshit. What do you know? 7th Master Xiao waved his sword and laughed. Am I wrong? Your sister Yi Chuchen was originally in love with Meng Gein, the Duke of the Meng clan, which was a vassal clan of your Yi clan. But in order to form an alliance with the Ling clan, you forcibly separated them. You wanted your sister to marry the second Duke of the Ling clan, Ling Hanwu. Yi Wubo attacked crazily and shouted furiously, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Seeing that he flew into a rage out of humiliation, 7th Master Xiao was even more pleased. Ha ha ha, what's the result? Yi Chuchen would rather die than submit. Meng Gein was deeply in love with her, and Ling Hanwu as a man, took the initiative to withdraw. Your Yi clan lost everything. What else do you have besides becoming a joke in the heavens? So what if you've killed everyone in the Meng clan? So what if you've imprisoned your own daughter? Can you shut the mouths of the people in the world? Can you turn a joke into glory? Despicable. What #1 clan poo? Yi Wubo was furious and retorted. Is your Xiao clan a noble figure? You're just a bunch of thieves and prostitutes. Back then, your granduncle Xiao Qinghua overestimated himself and wandered the martial world. But he was castrated and became impotent ever since. His concubines actually had an affair with a coachman. Ha ha ha. It's really glorious. So what if your Xiao clan has killed everyone? A bastard is a bastard. A tortoise is a tortoise. Yi Wubo laughed loudly. 7th Master Xiao was so angry that he scolded loudly. What do you know? Your Yi clan only knows how to make groundless accusations. A bunch of shameless bastards. Ha ha ha. If we're shameless, Then you're a family of thieves and prostitutes. A family of cuckolds. A family of living bastards, ha ha ha, including you. Seventh Master Shao, you're known as a sword maniac. I heard that you didn't touch your wife after finding one? Ha ha ha. I really don't know who your wife is. If there's really no other way, let her come to me. Seventh Master Shao, I'll satisfy her for you, ha ha. The more they spoke, the more vicious their words became. They exposed each other's scars and scolded each other viciously. As a result, Seventh Master Shao became more and more furious. Since their strengths were equally matched, he had to think of ways to make the other party confused. Once the other party was confused, he would have an opportunity to take advantage of it. Since they had already shed all pretenses of cordiality, and were going to have a life-and-death battle, what else was there to worry about? Chapter 842. Translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios with such a mentality, both of them were in equally dangerous situations. Up to now, both of them had more than 10 new wounds on their bodies. But the two of them didn't dare to relax. They continued to mock each other as they fought. They wouldn't stop until the other party died. However, from the looks of things, the only path left for the two of them was to perish together. This won't do. Chu Yang saw that the situation wasn't right. He frowned. They can't die. If they die, how will the enmity arise? Why not? If both of them die, as long as their subordinates are still alive, won't the two clans immediately start a war if they go back and report? This is better than both of them being alive, right? If no one dies and the main characters don't die, how can it be considered a great enmity? The sword spirit was a little puzzled. Please familiarize yourself with the domain name. No, Chu Yang said heavily. As the saying goes, if the master is humiliated, the subordinates will die. If the master dies, the subordinates, what will happen? I dare to bet. If Yi Wubua and Seventh Master Shao perish together, these people who are fighting now will definitely stop immediately. Then, they'll have a high chance of returning to the forest. Because even if they bring the news back, they'll still die. The sword spirit frowned. That's reasonable. It's not reasonable, it's a fact. If the master is still alive, the subordinates will naturally fight with all their might. But if the master is no longer alive, who will they fight for? Who will they fight for? Especially, if they still die in the end. If they don't fight to their death, they'll be killed by the master. Who will go back to die? Chu Yang said. So the two of them can be seriously injured but they can't die. The sword spirit blinked and said, if they're seriously injured it'll be even better. Chu Yang was shocked. He scolded. Damn it, you're worse than me. Okay, I'll leave this matter to you. The sword spirit was stunned. Chu Yang added, those people can die. The sword spirit was still stunned. On the battlefield both sides were already in a frenzy. Besides the thought of killing the other party, there was nothing else in their minds. Yin Shan and Yin Hai were bathed in blood. They were fighting side by side. Yi Wubua's 3 bodyguards gritted their teeth and attacked even harder. Even Brother Ox, who was lying on his brother's back, was also gathering his strength to release the hidden weapons. The two sides were already irreconcilable, and they despised each other. The people from the Shao clan felt that these people from the Yi clan were too despicable and unreasonable. The Yi clan felt that the Shao clan was too shameless. They dared to do it but didn't dare to admit it. The battle had reached its climax. Right at this moment, Yin Shan stabbed out with his sword. His original intention was to protect his brother Kong. Who would have thought that his sword would deviate to the side? His opponent's sword was like the wind, piercing through Kong's lower abdomen at lightning speed. Yin Hai let out a blood-curdling scream. He twisted his body, and actually used his palm to stop the sword that had pierced his stomach. The sword in his hand ruthlessly pierced into the man's chest. The energy attached to the two swords exploded in each other's bodies at the same time. One's chest exploded, while the other's lower abdomen exploded with a bloody hole the size of a wash basin. The two of them didn't retreat. Even so, they still locked onto each other, and used all their strength to destroy each other. Popping sounds that sounded like popping beans could be heard, and the bones in their bodies were crushed by each other. Both of them grabbed onto different parts of their bodies, and twisted them with all their strength. They gritted their teeth and glared at each other. In the end, their eyes condensed at the same time, and they turned into two piles of mud that fell together. Their spines, ribs, and shoulders were all crushed by each other. Yin Hai! Yin Shan screamed. His sword had deviated to the side for no reason, causing his brother's death. However, the monarch in front of him, who was carrying a person on his back, was the same. His body staggered for no reason. Yin Shan's sword, which had already deviated from its original direction, had coincidentally pierced through this person's left thigh. The sword was like a stick of candied hawthorns, piercing through Niu Laosi and Boss Niu, who was on his back at the same time. Frenzied sword qi and xian qi cultivation exploded within these two people's bodies. With a blood-curdling scream, the goateed ox boss was blasted away by the violent explosion of xian qi. He was actually torn apart in midair, and couldn't be more dead. Yin Shan pulled out his sword crazily and slashed down crazily. Blood splattered everywhere. The only remaining person on the other side roared angrily and pounced over with all his might. Yin Shan grinned maliciously. He didn't dodge, but used his chest to welcome the opponent's sword. At the same time, when the thick sword slashed open his chest, his sword pierced through the opponent's throat. Seventh Master Xiao and Yi Wubo cried out in grief and indignation at the same time. The two of them didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, 3 pairs of their subordinates, who were fighting for their lives just now, would die. The two of them were extremely indignant. Those who could follow the two of them everywhere. Which one of them wasn't a hardcore brother, who had been with them for many years? The two of them had been through countless battles, and it was unknown how many storms they had weathered together. Today all of them died here. Even if the two of them were cold-blooded, they still felt an intense pain in their hearts. They were so hurt that they went crazy. Seventh Master Xiao, I Yi Wubo, am absolutely irreconcilable with you. Yi Wubo, from now on, I, Seventh Master Xiao, am irreconcilable with you. I won't let go of this bloody debt even if your Xiao clan is annihilated. Ha ha ha. Even if your Yi clan's ancestral graves are filled up, it won't be able to eliminate the hatred in my heart. Let's fight again. Kill. The two of them attacked with their long swords at the same time. They both gritted their teeth. Almost at the same time, Yi Wubo's long sword left his hands. He waved his hands, and black concealed weapons flew out like a swarm of wasps. Seventh Master Xiao forcefully raised his qi. The sword light changed direction, and a dazzling light pillar shot up into the sky. Obviously, the two of them were prepared to fight with their lives on the line. At this moment, the two of them, who were in a frenzy, didn't notice that 2 thin and small short swords had quietly blended into Yi Wubo's concealed weapons. As the two of them collided, the 2 short swords strangely changed their direction. One of them intercepted a flying knife that was going to pierce 7th Master Zhao's heart, while the other short sword appeared from Yi Wubo's hand and blocked 7th Master Zhao's sword that was going to pierce Yi Wubo's throat. The two of them shouted at the same time. More than 20 of Yi Wubo's concealed weapons disappeared into 7th Master Zhao's body. However, 7th Master Zhao's sword pierced into Yi Wubo's left shoulder. With a bang, there was an explosion of energy. Yi Wubo's left arm was separated from his body, along with a rain of blood. Yi Wubo screamed miserably. His face was distorted, and he staggered back a few steps. Then, he sat on the ground crookedly. At the place where his arm was cut off, blood spurted out like a fountain, and his whole body convulsed. He gritted his teeth and screamed. At the same time, he used his right hand to point a few times around his broken arm. The blood flow immediately slowed down. Then he took out a whole bottle of medicine and sprinkled it on his wound. Then he took out another bottle of medicine and stuffed it into his mouth. As he screamed in pain, he chewed and cursed crazily. On the other side, 7th Master Xiao spun and fell from the sky. His whole body was like a blood sac that had been pierced dozens of times, and blood was spurting out. He fell to the ground and rolled a few times. Then he spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. He wanted to stand up, but he fell down halfway. Then he hugged his right leg with both hands and cried out miserably. One of the hidden weapons had severed the tendons of his right leg. Then, 7th Master shouted the same actions as Yi Wubo. Stop the bleeding, apply medicine, eat medicine, and curse. Now, Both of them didn't have any strength left. Besides cursing, they couldn't do anything else. They were less than 200 feet apart. If it was in the past, with their cultivation, they would have reached each other before they could even use their martial arts. But now, if they used all their strength, they wouldn't even be able to reach each other in half an hour. Then, as if they had made an agreement, both of them shut their mouths at the same time. They were 200 feet apart. Under the illumination of the fire, both of them stared at each other fiercely. Their eyes were filled with irreconcilable hatred. The flames flickered, illuminating the two men's faces, making them look bright and dark. Both of their faces were stained with blood. Their muscles were convulsing and twisting. They gritted their teeth and looked ferocious and terrifying. They were like two devils who wanted to devour the world, staring at each other fiercely. But neither of them spoke. Neither of them opened their mouths. It was silent. Only the crackling sound of the fire could be heard. After a long time, both of them moved at the same time. Then, they sat down dejectedly at the same time. After another period of time, Seventh Master Shao sheathed his sword, which was full of holes. On the other side, Yi Wubwa did the same. Then, as if they were taught by the same master, they used the sheath as a crutch to support their bodies and stood up shakily. Seventh Master Shao didn't say anything. He looked at the fire sadly and reluctantly. Then, he looked at the corpses of Yun Shan and Yun Hai. A drop of tear fell from the corner of his eye. Then, he turned around and walked towards the east. Yi Wubwa also did the same. He stared at the corpses of his four subordinates for a long time. The ghost fire in his eyes seemed to be burning crazily. Then he turned around and walked towards the west. The two of them staggered, swaying with every step. Just as their figures were about to disappear into the night, they turned their heads at the same time. Four pairs of eyes stared at each other fiercely. At this moment, the hatred and resentment in these four pairs of eyes almost condensed into substance. Both of them didn't say anything, but both of them knew that this was a deep hatred that couldn't be resolved. Today's hatred could only be washed away with blood. At this moment, it was no longer important to talk about the reason. After the two of them looked at each other, they turned around at the same time and disappeared into the night. They didn't turn back. There was silence in the fire. After a long time, a black shadow appeared quietly and stood in the fire. It's really tragic. Chu Yang took a breath. It's really tragic. The sword spirit breathed a sigh of relief. From this battle, we can see how strong the foundation of the Shao clan and Yi clan is. Chu Yang's face was a little heavy. He said, Seventh Master Shao and Yi Wubwa aren't core figures in their respective clans. Both of them are from the second last generation. One can only be ranked 7th, and the other can only be ranked 13th. But the strength of these two is obvious to all. Chu Yang said deeply. I don't know how the core disciples of these clans will fare. The sword spirit smiled faintly and said, no matter how the core disciples are like, as long as you walk step by step, you'll meet them sooner or later. Let's go back. Chu Yang smiled with a heavy heart. His heavy heart wasn't because of the huge forces that he was about to face, but because of the name that 7th Master Shao said during the battle of words between 7th Master Shao and Yi Wubwa. Yi Chuchen, the 100th vote. My hands are trembling and stiff. I'll rest for a while before I start a new chapter. Hashtag. Chapter 843. Chu Yang was thinking intensely in his heart. Yi Chuchen is Master's lover. She's Yi Wubwa's sister? Or his biological sister? The Meng clan? A vassal clan of the Yi clan? Master's name is Meng Chaoran. But the name that 7th Master Shao said to be in love with Yi Chuchen is Meng Gein. But Chu Yang understood immediately. Meng Gein's clan was exterminated, and he escaped from the upper three heavens alone. How would he dare to use his original name? So it was natural for Meng Gein to become Meng Chaoran. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. Meng Chaoran finally understood the meaning of Master's detachment. Meng Chaoran had always been indifferent to everything in the world, as if he didn't care about anything. This detachment wasn't innate, nor was it his nature. It was because he had gone through too much pain. The hatred of his clan's extermination, the misery of being separated from his wife, and the pain of being exiled all weighed on him. And the enemy was not only the #1 clan in the world, but also the clan of the woman he loved deeply. Even if he could take revenge, it was still uncertain what would happen between him and Yi Chuchen in the future. After all, the Ming clan was exterminated because of the two of them, and the Yi clan would also be bathed in blood because of the two of them. Could the two of them continue their predestined relationship? Could the grudges in their hearts be eliminated? Could they face each other calmly? Master should be in the upper 3 heavens now. And he's definitely near the Yi clan. He's definitely not far from Yi Chuchen. Chu Yang was a little anxious. In such a place, there would be many acquaintances around him. Once his whereabouts were exposed, it would be a disaster. I have to end things here as soon as possible, and then go over there to help Master. Chu Yang thought silently in his heart. Master's life is already hard enough. If he still can't spend his life with the person he loves, then it'll be a tragedy to the end. Chu Yang thought. Although there's a huge hatred for the Yi clan, it's not appropriate for Master to kill them personally. It's better for me to kill them all. Then Master won't have any sins. I'll kill them all and then betray Master. Then Yi Chuchen won't blame Master. Chu Yang thought to himself as he walked back. The sword spirit muttered. This Shao clan branch is considered a large place, and it's not far from other clans. Such an intense battle has almost caused the houses of those clans to collapse. Why hasn't anyone come to see what's going on? Chu Yang laughed. Who dares to come and see? With such a big thing happening, everyone couldn't wait to hide. Since he dared to provoke the Shao clan, how could he be ordinary? Come over to check. Isn't that just looking to be silenced? In the night wind, the black-clothed figure sped along. A faint smell of blood and a somber aura spread out along the way. Chu Yang continued to release his biting cold aura into the night wind. Once a person killed someone, after an intense battle, they would have a special aura. This aura would make ordinary people feel uncomfortable when they come into contact with it. And an experienced warrior would immediately know what this person had just done. What Chu Yang was doing now was to disperse this aura. Otherwise, when he went back, he would be stopped before he could even enter his own room. In these few days, after being reminded by Han Shaoran, Chu Yang had been working hard to cultivate the 1000 Phantom technique. The difficulty of this kind of auxiliary technique wasn't very high. Once a theory was understood, 100 would be understood. And this kind of technique mostly required mental strength. And Chu Yang's current mental strength were undeniably the best in the world. With just a few days' effort, he had already cultivated to the 2nd level of the 1000 Phantom technique. And he was moving towards the 3rd level. If I want you to see my level of cultivation, you can only see my level of cultivation. He could do whatever he wanted. On the way back, when he was about to reach the purple crystal's Huichun Hall, the sword spirit took control of his body again. He entered the room lightly and kept the person in the room. Minister Chu laid on the bed peacefully and fell into a sweet dream, as if he hadn't done anything. The next day, the entire flat mountain ridge was turned upside down. The Shao clan branch has been destroyed. Yes, they're all dead. Not a single one is left. It's really tragic. You went to see. Damn you. You're the one who went to see. Don't harm me. You can't say this casually. How would you know if you didn't see? The smell of blood could be smelled from a few miles away. Last night, there was a huge fire, and even the sky was burning red. In the morning, Divine Dr. Chu was in the purple crystal's Huichun Hall. Clan Master Huang Shang's face was as gloomy as the sky before a storm. When he walked in, he greeted Divine Dr. Chu with a bitter face. Huang Shang had heard about the Shao clan's branch early in the morning. He flew into a rage on the spot. He really didn't expect that such a big pot of shit would be placed on his head without any warning. The Shao clan and the Huang clan had enmity. The Huang clan had just threatened to deal with the Shao clan yesterday. This wasn't a secret. And yesterday, the Huang clan had just arrived at the flat mountain ridge. Last night, the Shao clan's branch in the flat mountain ridge had been massacred. Who did it? Was there a need to ask? But the problem was that the Huang clan really didn't do it. If it was really done by the Huang clan, then there was nothing to say. The problem was that the Huang clan didn't do it, but was instead made a scapegoat. This was called injustice. To a big clan like the Huang clan, this matter was not only injustice, but also depressing. The biggest problem was that there was no way to explain it. You brought so many people just to play in the flat mountain ridge? What's the point of playing in such a poor and desolate place? They could only swallow this grievance silently, and couldn't tell anyone about it. Clan Master Huang, you're early. Divine Dr. Chu greeted him refreshingly. It seems that you look good today. Huang Shang sat down and said dispiritedly, not only do I look good, but I'm also extremely excited. Huh. Clan Master Huang, is there something bothering you? Divine Dr. Chu asked thoughtfully. Did you not sleep well last night? Huang Shang opened his mouth, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He only had black lines on his forehead as he let out a long sigh. Divine Dr. Chu, I'll leave the dogs to you. Huang Shang sighed and waved his hands. The people behind him immediately carried up 5 big boxes and placed them in front of Chu Yang. Here are 40,000 purple crystals. Divine Dr. Chu, please accept them first. As for the remaining 40,000 purple crystals, I'll immediately send someone to deliver them to you after I go back. The medicinal herbs will be delivered within a month. By then, please take care of them. Chu Yang was stunned. This is so embarrassing. He rubbed his hands. Clan Master Huang, are you going back? Huang Shang sighed. I can't not go back. If I don't go back, I'm afraid that the Huang clan will be overthrown by the Xiao clan. This matter is extremely serious. Chu Yang turned pale with fright. What happened? So serious? It's a long story. How would Huang Shang know that the shocked Divine Dr. Chu in front of him was actually the real culprit? He only sighed again and again, looking distressed. Although he was angry at the Xiao clan's viciousness and wanted to take revenge, he definitely didn't think of using such a blatant way to take revenge. He knew clearly that although the Huang clan was powerful, it was still a few streets behind the Xiao clan. Especially their foundation, they couldn't be compared at all. The Xiao clan had tens of thousands of years of foundation. If those old fellows didn't come out, the Xiao clan and the Huang clan would be evenly matched. But once those old fellows came out, the Huang clan would immediately be defeated. But now that the curtains had been drawn, how could the elders of the Xiao clan not come out as the battle became more and more intense, and more people died? When he thought of this, Huang Shang felt a headache coming on. Huang Shang finally left with his wives, leaving only 2 martial saint experts to be Huang Xiaoyou's bodyguards. And they weren't the 2 from last night. The 2 martial saints from last night were both second-stage martial saints. But the 2 who stayed today were second-stage martial saints and fifth-stage martial saints. These 2 people were the sworn brothers of the previous clan master of the Huang clan. One was called Bai Wuji, and the other was called Zitingchong. Contrary to his name, Bai Wuji's face was purple, but Zitingchong's face was like white dough, which was very funny. With these 2 people here, Huang Xiaoyou was basically safe. In addition, Huang Xiaoyou's 2 wives also stayed here. Clan Master Huang's intention was very simple. Although he didn't say it out, everyone understood. If Huang Xiaoyou regained his masculinity, then don't waste any more time and quickly spread out. Anyway, you're useless, and only have this little use left. We don't count on you for the clan's prosperity, but on your son. Divine Dr. Chu specially arranged for Huang Xiaoyou to stay in the same room with his 2 wives. This decision was strongly resisted and loudly protested by Huang Xiaoyou, who already felt guilty and had an inferiority complex. But under Divine Dr. Chu's tyranny, Huang Xiaoyou had no choice but to give in. As Huang Shang and the others left the flat mountain ridge, Huang Xiaoyou also started the second course of treatment. The collected centipede legs, venomous snake tongues, poisonous stinging iron cucumber, and so on, were all boiled in a big pot by Divine Dr. Chu. The pot was filled with black and shiny medicinal soup, with centipede legs and other things floating on it. Divine Dr. Chu dripped 2 drops of lust dragon's blood this time. The medicinal effect was twice as strong as the first course of treatment. But when Huang Xiaoyou smelled the stench of the medicinal soup, he had already vomited. And when he saw the color of the medicinal soup, he was even more scared out of his wits. He dragged his feet on the ground and sat back fiercely. No matter what, he wouldn't go forward, let alone drink it. Divine Dr. Chu frowned, but it didn't work. Huang Xiaoyu shook his head like a rattledrum. I'm a man of my words. If I say I won't drink it, then I won't drink it. Seeing that Divine Dr. Chu was furious, the two martial saints caught Huang Xiaoyu and used the method of the previous guards. Pinch his nose and forced the medicine down his throat. Then, they immediately operated their martial arts to help him digest the medicine. When they let go of Huang Xiaoyu, he was lying on the ground and twitching. His mouth and eyes were crooked, and he seemed to have lost his will to live. When he heard that he had to drink this medicine for 5 consecutive days, Huang Xiaoyu directly screamed, took off his belt and hung it on the door. Then he couldn't wait to stretch his neck into the room. MP*, MP*. As he was too tired yesterday, he was in a daze today. He felt that he woke up and slept and woke up again. He only woke up in the afternoon. When he got up, he realized that he was still far away from the first place. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Continued to work hard. The 2 deputy moderators sent a screenshot. At midnight yesterday, everyone had actually cast 1,134 votes. Everyone is too strong. I owe everyone 2 chapters. I'll work overtime today to make up for these 2 chapters. That is to say, I'll update at least 4 chapters today. This is the first chapter. Fight, just one word. I'm fighting, so I hope everyone can accompany me and give me strength. Give me motivation. I sincerely beg everyone for monthly votes. I need it very much. Please continue to be crazy with me. I'll never admit defeat. Chapter 844. Divine Dr. Chu had no choice but to comfort him. After the 3rd course of treatment, the medicine won't stink anymore. Huang Gong's tears flowed down his cheeks as he looked at the sky speechlessly. How unbearable these 5 days would be. But on the 2nd day, Huang Xiaoyu was extremely excited. The sky had just turned bright. Divine Dr. Chu had just woken up and was sitting in the purple bamboo forest, breathing in the fresh air. Divine Dr. Chu was shocked by a strange cry. Then, he saw Huang Xiaolong rushing out naked into the room of the 2 martial saints. Then he heard from inside. There's a reaction. Look. It's a little hard. Huang Gong's voice was ecstatic. Then he heard the 2 martial saints trembling with excitement. It's true. Damn, it's really a little hard. Then Huang Xiaoyu's voice was heard. Ah, don't touch it. Hey, don't fiddle with it. Embarrassed laughter sounded. Ha 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 ha. By Wuji's excited voice was heard. Can you use it now? Huang Xiaoyu's voice was a little depressed. I tried it just now, but it still didn't work. It's almost done. Don't worry, you'll be able to use it soon. Divine Dr. Chu is really a miracle-working doctor. You can even cure this thing. Hearing the sound from inside, Divine Dr. Chu was dumbfounded, and his head bumped into the purple bamboo. Early in the morning, Chulor was surprised to see something that she couldn't believe. Huang Xiaoyu, who was scared to death by the stink of the medicine yesterday, actually took the initiative to drink it today. Moreover, he held the bowl with great care, as if he was afraid of spilling a single drop. He gulped down this bowl of medicinal soup, which was as smelly as the septic tank in public toilets. After he finished drinking, he even smacked his lips twice. He then took some water to rinse the bowl before drinking it again, and then the second bowl, rinsing it again after he finished drinking it. Then, with a satisfied expression, he even burped, hummed a tune and walked away. He actually regained his original arrogance of a hedonistic young master. Chulor was stunned. What the hell? Could it be that there's something tasty in the medicine? Chulor was perplexed. She gathered her courage and sniffed at the pot. Chulor's curiosity could kill a cat. The little girl covered her mouth and rushed out. She couldn't stop herself from vomiting when she reached the outside. She vomited so much that she felt as if her liver and intestines had been cut to pieces. When he stood up again, he looked at Huang Xiaoyu in disbelief. Martial Yin-Yang new chapter. This guy was too strong. Eunuch Huang actually enjoyed such a smelly thing and cherished it so much. After drinking the medicine, he even washed the bowl clean before drinking it again. afraid that he would waste even the slightest bit of its medicinal strength. Big brother, is this Duke Huang possessed? Chu Luo asked suspiciously when she saw Chu Yang again. No, he's just too excited. Chu Yang smiled and rubbed the little girl's hair. He said, Luo, let me tell you a piece of good news. You're only missing 2 types of medicines. Really? Chu Luo's eyes instantly turned into crescents. Of course it's true. Our Luo is very lucky. Many kind-hearted people will help you. Chu Yang squinted his eyes and smiled. Chu Luo smiled happily. Doesn't that mean that as long as I recover, I'll be able to practice martial arts very soon? Yes, Chu Yang replied. Then he reacted. You want to practice martial arts? To become a heroine? What heroine? Chu Luo wrinkled her nose. I just don't want to be bullied. By the way, I also don't want to be bullied. Chu Yang laughed. When you recover, I'll definitely give you an unparalleled martial arts technique. You'll be like a dragon soaring into the heavens. It's a phoenix. Chu Luo stared and said. It's a phoenix, ha ha ha. Chu Yang broke into a sweat and laughed. Within the next few days, Chu Fian was about to set off with the caravan. Before he left, he came to look for Chu Yang. After considering for a long time, Chu Yang still let Chu Fian go to the Blood Payers Hall to cancel the 5 types of medicines that he currently had. After all, this was a huge expenditure. Originally, Chu Yang didn't intend to cancel it. After all, these things were heavenly treasures. So be it if he wanted to collect more. Anyway, they were useful. But after hearing about the medicine banquet, Chu Yang wanted to cancel it. The medicine banquet was definitely a place where money was burned. Without sufficient preparation, how could he exchange for good things in the medicine banquet? He couldn't possibly steal everything. Currently, the Chu clan already had the 8 types of medicines that Chu Luo needed to treat her illness. Moreover, the Huang clan had also gotten another one. Sha Xinliang and Qin Baoshan had gotten the Jade Clover Ganoderma and Heavenly Jade Elixir. The Huang clan was about to send the Life Pangolin and Death Water. In addition, the Blood Payers organization, Jinjian Hall, was also sending a flower over. Currently, only the Color Lotus and Earthly Soul Ginseng were missing. The rewards for these 2 types of medicines would naturally not be cancelled. In less than 2 months, Divine Dr. Chu had already gotten one of the 8 types of medicines that he was originally helpless against. This ability was also shocking, although his methods were not very open. But the remaining 2 types of medicines were the most important, because the places where these 2 types of medicines grew were especially hard to find. The Color Lotus had to grow in an extremely cold place, and it had to be in a place where thousands of poisons gathered. This was a problem. Since it was an extremely cold place, it was impossible for thousands of poisons to gather there. And the Earthly Soul Ginseng had to grow in an extremely cold and humid place. And this place had to be where many people had died. It could only grow in a place where the Yin aura couldn't be dispersed for a long time. But in the process of the Earthly Soul Ginseng's growth, there had to be sunlight. This was another contradiction. Since it was humid and cold for a long time, how could there be sunlight in a place where Yin aura couldn't be dispersed? So these 2 types of medicines were the most difficult to find. But Chu Yang felt that there might be some medicines in the medicine banquet. That was where all the elixirs in the world would be gathered. 3 days later, there was finally news. But it wasn't news from the Huang clan or the Yi clan, but from the Xiao clan and the Li clan. 4 days ago, which was the day before the battle between Yi Wubua and 7th Master Xiao, the Li clan's master, Li Nantung, passed by 8 Corners Mountain and was ambushed by the 3rd master of the Xiao clan, Xiao Jianhan. In this battle, both sides suffered heavy casualties. Li Nantung survived, but more than half of Xiao Jianhan's side died. This battle was like a bugle horn that sounded the monstrous offensive of the 8 super clans against the Li clan. But the Li clan didn't back down. In order to ensure the safety of Li Xiongtu, the Li clan didn't hesitate to do anything. Protecting Li Xiongtu meant protecting the Li clan for 10,000 years. They wouldn't retreat no matter what. Flames of war rose in the Chongtian continent. The Li clan started to be attacked from all directions. The Yi clan, Ling clan, Zhuge clan, Shi clan, Xiao clan, Yin clan, Long clan and Shun clan all attacked at the same time. All the clans adopted the same method. They started to wipe out the Li clan from the periphery. First, they got rid of all the Li clan's branches and businesses to cut off its source of income. Then, they attacked the subsidiary clans of the Li clan and waited for an opportunity to kill the important figures of the Li clan. Gradually, they went inwards and cleared the fields. Although this method would take a long time, it was the best way to get things done once and for all. There was absolutely no need to worry about any fish escaping the net, especially when Li Xiongtu's portrait started to secretly circulate within the clans. The request of the clans was, no matter what, they must remember this face. No matter what, they must kill this person. This was the biggest premise. If Li Xiongtu survived in the end, so what if they killed all the members of the Li clan? Wouldn't it be of no use at all? Not to mention the fact that the clans were attacking the Li clan. The Shao clan had already started to secretly deploy troops in the southeast region. The Shao clan's branch in the flat mountain ridge was destroyed and massacred. And on that day, the clan master of the Huang clan, Huang Shang, entered the flat mountain ridge. Needless to say, what this meant was obvious. Moreover, 7th Master Shao, who was in charge of the Shao clan's branch in this region, was missing. Until now, no one had seen him alive or dead. But the bodies of 7th Master Zhao's 2 capable subordinates were found at the scene. Then 7th Master Shao must be dead. The Shao clan hadn't suffered such a big loss in so many years. How could they tolerate it? While they sent people out to look for 7th Master Shao, they were already preparing to take revenge on the Huang clan. And the Huang clan was even more heavily fortified and prepared for mobilization. The battle could start at any time. Both sides were in full swing, and it was as if there was no rain. The only thing that could be confirmed was that once the battle started, the flames of war would burn the sky. It wouldn't happen overnight. In the flat mountain ridge, Xia Xinliang and Qin Baoshan were also working hard to reorganize the law enforcement officers and their subordinates. They were preparing all kinds of weapons, hidden weapons, poisons and demonic means as much as possible. At the same time, the 2 of them and their brothers were crazily practicing martial arts. Both of them knew that once Han Shaoran started to take action, there would never be a day of peace, unless one of them was exterminated. So, if they were more prepared now, they would have more chances of survival in the future. Huang Xia and Lu Gong had already started the 3rd course of treatment. The medicine for the 3rd course of treatment wasn't bitter or smelly, but it was extremely sour. Duke Huang only took a sip, and he couldn't even chew the tofu. Duke Huang didn't even frown as he drank it all. And he drank the medicine on time. He also mixed the dregs with water and drank it. Isn't it just sour? I can bear it. Duke Huang actually became very arrogant. In these few days, Duke Huang was very cooperative. He ate whatever was given to him. His worship and trust for divine Dr. Chu had also reached the extreme. Every morning he would scream in surprise, "It's harder, harder, waha." A wolf-like laughter started to come out from Duke Huang's throat. Such a surprise was absolutely impossible for ordinary people to understand. I've been eunuch for 7 to 8 years. I've never used it before. Now, I'm finally going to have a good time. Duke Huang's face was full of tears. Under such circumstances, how could he not cooperate? Now, even if divine Dr. Chu pointed to a pile of feces and said, "This thing is useful to eat," then Duke Huang would definitely swallow it without frowning, not to mention taking medicine. Isn't it just a little bitter, smelly and sour? Brothers and sisters, if I didn't get the first place in the monthly votes, I'll explode again. Speaking of risking my life, I'm not afraid of anyone. But the recommendation ticket didn't even make it to the front page after 11 p.m. I'm so sad. Don't make me too sad. I've already suffered a lot. I beg for monthly votes, beg for recommendation tickets. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.